Respectful weekend. So, okay.
Ready when you are, Mayor.
Go ahead and let's get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 1st Township Committee meeting. Please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing annual notice of regular meetings for 2021 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2020, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Daffis.
Here.
Mr. DeLuca.
Here.
Mr. Lembrick.
Here.
Mayor McGehee.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231 Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas desire the governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in a formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise described by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all its regular and special meetings.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Daffis.
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick.
Yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes, and thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Before we get started with running through the agenda for this evening, at the Memorial Day, we took a moment of silence, and I want to do that again this evening in regards to what happened 100 years ago in Tulsa, Oklahoma. 100 years ago today, on May 31st and June 1st of 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, mobs of white residents, many of them deputized and given weapons by city officials, attacked Black residents, burned their businesses, started looting and burning. And this predominantly Black neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, known as Greenwood, at the time also known as the Black Wall Street, was the wealthiest Black community in the United States. They killed over 300 Black Americans and displaced thousands of Black American families. The event, officially called the Tulsa Race Massacre or the Tulsa Race Riot, is still one of the worst incidents of racial violence in the history of America. The attack was carried out on the ground and also in private aircrafts and destroyed 35 square blocks of the Black community. So I just wanted to take a moment 100 years ago and take a moment and have a moment of silence for those who lost their lives in this tragic event that happened on American soil. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to our June 1st meeting. Tonight we have two proclamations, one in support of Pride Month. June is Pride Month, and that will be led by Mr. Daffis. We'll also have a proclamation on men's health. June is Men's Health Month traditionally, and so that will be led by Mr. Lembrick. We're also excited tonight to introduce our new Assistant Township Administrator, Bailey Barnett. So welcome, and we'll hear more from Bailey as well as Mr. Jimes later. And then we'll move into our first public comment on agenda items only, a limited time of 3 minutes. So please be cognizant of that. Then we'll move into our budget portion of the agenda, where we'll discuss the 2021 municipal budget and have the hearing accordingly. From there, we'll move into our Board of Health meeting led by Deputy Mayor Dean Daffis, as well as our health officer, Ms. Candace Davenport. Tonight, we have a couple of ordinances on final. Our first ordinance is related to sewer fees beginning this year in 2021. And our second ordinance on final relates to employee positions and salaries within the Township of Maplewood. We talked about this last meeting, but it's a table organization that's established to make sure that we are aligned regarding positions as well as departments. From there, we have one ordinance on introduction, which Mr. DeLuca will move, and this is regarding modifications to our ordinance related to cannabis. From there, we'll move into reports from departments. We don't plan to have any reports from departments this evening, but we always have that on the agenda. And then from that point, we'll hear from our key administrative team, Jerry Giants, our Township Administrator, Roger Desiderio, our Township Clerk, and the great Township Clerk, Liz Fritzen. From there, we'll have reports from elected officials. We'll first hear from Committee Person Nancy Adams. Then we'll hear from Committee Person Greg Lembrick. And then we'll hear from Committee Person Vic DeLuca, and then also from Deputy Mayor Dean Daffis. Tonight, we have only one discussion item, although I think it may be a long discussion, and that's related to our tree ordinance that will be led by Mr. DeLuca. Our consent agenda has several items on there, including but not inclusive to the resolution adopting our police chaplains, who are all here this evening, and we're so happy to have you. So maybe we'll move that up in the agenda now that I think about it out loud. And then we have several other resolutions regarding awarding contracts, which is a big part of our agenda this evening. Again, appointing a new township administrator, bills and claims, authorization of relief payment for an individual, extending employment, and then also several resolutions regarding payments. From there, we will move into our public comment on any agenda item, and then we will adjourn. So hopefully this will be a relatively, well, I'm not going to jinx us, but let's just hope we're done within 3 hours tonight so we can enjoy the weather that's much better than it was over this weekend. So without further ado, I'd like to move forward with the proclamation. I yield the floor to my colleague, Deputy Mayor Daffis, regarding June Pride Month. Mr. Daffis.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy Pride, everyone. It's great to see you all out there joining us this evening. We really welcome you all and appreciate the time that you've taken to be with us. June is Pride Month, and it is an especially welcome Pride Month this June after 15 months of being in isolation and being disconnected from one another. So we're going to have fulsome opportunity all month long to celebrate each other, to celebrate the great diversity of our community and all of our intersectionality, to see each other and truly affirm one another, to lift our voices. The equality struggle remains. There are issues unresolved. We are truly not equal yet. And of course, to have some fun. So it's going to be a terrific month. And I always look forward as Maplewood's first out proud LGBTQ elected council person or township committee member. I really take this duty very seriously because visibility matters, representation matters. There are young ones out there watching us. They want to see leaders. Hopefully we will inspire some to walk in our shoes, open the door for new electeds and other leaders, and hopefully we will help some of those out there who are not sure, who are experiencing doubt and possibly depression and worse. You are seen, you are loved, you are welcome in Maplewood and in South Orange. So here we go with our Proclamation Mayor. We are joined tonight, I'm proud, by fellow esteemed LGBTQ advocates from across the state. We have with us, of course, as we do every year, our very own local LGBTQ superstar, national LGBTQ advocate, Shannon Cuttle, who is also the first vice president of the South Orange Maplewood School District Board of Education. Shannon will join us in the reading of the proclamation. We also have Gaja Manuel from Garden State Equality. Gaja is a lead community organizer for our statewide organization, advocacy organization. Gaja is a former Army veteran, and he truly represents that great celebration of our commonality and intersectionality that Pride is supposed to be about. African American, Puerto Rican, Black, gay, veteran, Army veteran. And here he is in his own this year historic race for elected office in the city of Trenton for the city council. And he is breaking new barriers, and he is going to be a national name very, very soon. We're so happy to have him with us as well. And last but not least, we have our chair, our Essex County LGBTQ Dems chair, Reggie Bledsoe. Reggie is a former elected, born and raised in Newark, in Newark's Board of Education. And he is currently my colleague at the Department of Community Affairs in Trenton. So welcome, Reggie, welcome, Kaja, welcome, Shannon. I'm gonna lead us off. Whereas Maplewood is a diverse and inclusive community in which our residents take great pride in our diversity and believe in the safety, prosperity, equality, and hope for all who live and work in our towns. And whereas Maplewood recognizes the human rights of all citizens and actively supports to end all forms of prejudice and discrimination. And whereas our LGBTQ residents have made significant and important contributions to the history and quality of life in Maplewood and throughout Essex County. And whereas the Township Committee of Maplewood Township is committed to promoting LGBTQ equality and fostering welcoming and affirming LGBTQ spaces in our town. And Shannon?
And whereas on June 28th, in 1969, LGBTQ plus patrons of the popular Greenwich Village bar in New York City called Stonewall, a staple of the underground gay and trans community at the time, fought back against yet another police raid, which led to a prolonged and violent standoff that has become known as the Stonewall Riots or the Stonewall Rebellion or the Stonewall Uprising. And whereas police harassment and raids against the queer community have been more increasingly common across the country, particularly in cities such as San Francisco and Los Angeles, and queer resistance, including against police raids, established pre-Stonewall, largely through protests and more conciliatory forms of resistance. And whereas the Stonewall Riots inspired more direct queer resistance, counter-rebellions, and multiple riots across the country, including a famous 4-day standoff against police and the takeover of the Sheridan Square in Greenwich Village, New York City, 1 year after Stonewall. And
whereas 1 year after Stonewall in June 1970, the first Gay Pride March was held on Christopher Street in New York City to commemorate the Stonewall riots and marking Stonewall as a monumental fulcrum in the course of the LGBTQ liberation movement in America, shifting public opinion and influencing breaks in systemic and institutional LGBTQ alienation and discrimination, including the formation of visible and influential pride organizations and advocacy groups across the country, the American Psychiatric Association's declassification of homosexuality as a mental health disorder, the decriminalization of homosexuality, the first national march for LGBTQ equality on Washington, all within just the first decade following Stonewall. And whereas modern day advances in LGBTQ equality, including marriage, bans against LGBTQ conversion, the advancement of some federal protections with respect to access to federal services and open military service, LGBTQ inclusive and protective anti-discrimination public access state laws, positive LGBTQ public opinion, fulsome LGBTQ visibility and representation in media, education, public life, LGBTQ anti-bullying laws, and welcoming and affirming school climate policies, including actions to create LGBTQ inclusive curriculum, Fortune 500 corporate American LGBTQ inclusion and promotion, are all directly linked back to the Stonewall riots and the earlier queer resistance that preceded them. And
whereas when we honor Stonewall and the queer resistance as a whole, we remember to highlight and honor trans persons of color who were significant players in the queer rebellion, including Marsha Johnson and Celia Rivera, who led the riots at Stonewall, but whom have, along with too many other trans persons of color activists, been whitewashed in the mainstream history of queer liberation and by the LGBTQ establishment. And whereas without comprehensive federal civil rights protections, and because of legislative and executive attempts at rolling back LGBTQ advances or culture and political climate shifts that empower LGBTQ hate crimes that results in LGBTQ suicides or attempts at suicide. LGBTQ individuals and families continue to face significant uncertainties, oppression, and discrimination across the United States.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Frank McGehee, Mayor of Maplewood Township, on behalf of my Maplewood Township Committee, do hereby proclaim June 2021 as LGBTQ Pride Month in Maplewood Township. We commemorate and honor the men, women, and trans persons, binary and non-binary, and all persons of color who changed the course of LGBTQ liberation history around the world. Those at Stonewall in 1969 and those who preceded them. Now, therefore, I, Frank McGehee, Mayor of the Township of Maplewood, on behalf of the Maplewood Township Committee, urge all people of Maplewood and beyond to join LGBTQ advocacy and actions, promote diversity and inclusion, create welcoming and affirming spaces for LGBTQ youth, trans and non-binary folks, persons of color, and be visible, outspoken allies and upstanders for any injustice against one, because it is an injustice against all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I wonder if we could provide space for our guests to say a few brief remarks.
Absolutely, Deputy Mayor.
Kaja, you want to go first?
Thank you for this, Mayor. Visibility is extremely important. And I actually have remarks prepared. I'm one of those people. After a year of being apart, we're finally back together. We're getting closer to being back together and visible. In many ways, Pride is about being visible, being seen, and letting others know you see them. It's nice to be seen and it's nice to be heard. This past year, we saw many open their eyes to racism and finally say Black Lives Matter, leaving many to finally feel seen and heard. At Garden State Equality, as we continue to fight for equality both in the law and in people's daily lives, it is important to remember who we're fighting for. And I thank you, along with the rest of the Garden State Equality family. We thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaja. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us tonight and everything you do at Garden State Equality for us throughout the community across the state. Shannon?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Dean Daffis, and thank you, as always, to the Maplewood Township Committee for leading the way, not just for Maplewood with South Orange and supporting LGBT Pride Month, but being a shining star and example to help support our other communities. As we add new cities and towns every year that are raising the Pride flag, learning from other towns and communities. So thank you for that. The only other thing I would like to say is that, now more than ever, it's important that, especially during Pride Month, and as we are coming to the end of the pandemic, for us to come together and show support and solidarity for our LGBTQ plus family members, neighbors, friends. And at this critical time, we know that there's been more than 80 anti-LGBT pieces of legislation across the country. And this Pride Month, it is so much more impactful that our allies not just stand with us to support us during Pride Month, but throughout the year and speak up against these attacks and anti-LGBT legislation that are particularly targeting our trans youth across the country, and to show strength and force. And representation matters, visibility matters, as many of us have said, and with our allies standing up and being representative and being visible and speaking out and standing up and being courageous, that also will help be transformative to save lives and change lives. So thank you again to the Maplewood Township Committee, and thank you to our larger community for coming together again during Pride season.
Thank you, Shannon, and thank you for your leadership, especially as it relates to affirming our LGBTQ youth, which is an ongoing, as you said, struggle. And we will not be free until our youth feel that they matter and that they can thrive and dream. Reggie?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daffris. I just would like to thank, Mayor McGee, the Township Committee members, also Reverend Clergy that's here today to celebrate the work that we contribute to do every single day. As Dean so eloquently mentioned this evening, this work is not easy. It's hard, it's difficult. We live this every single day, 365 days a year, not only through the month of June, but every day when we experience discrimination in housing and employment, and to know that there are states across this country who continue to roll back so much progress that we've made thus far. It's just an honor to be here and amongst all of you all's presence. But when I think about Essex County, I think about South Orange, Maplewood leading the way. It's not one time that I'm advocating or attempting to get the conversation going throughout the county, and you all's townships are leading the way and having the conversation first. And I had the opportunity to serve on the Newark Board of Education. And when these types of discussions come up, it's difficult because a lot of people in my community don't understand visibility and representation. And sometimes you have to really get downright ugly with folks to make them understand. And I look at Shannon because Shannon's been such an inspiration to me doing my work on the school board, and being the person, her and Dean, they and them, and Dean being the point person I'm able to talk to and scream and just articulate some of the frustrations that I go through on a daily. Thank you all for being great friends and mentors. And Mayor McGee, I know you're leading the way. I thank you always, and for always being a friend and support of this community and your township as well. So thank you, and for giving me the opportunity to be here and speak today.
Thank you, Reggie. Mayor, I turn it back over to you. And happy Pride to all again.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Reggie. Good to see you, brother. Awesome. Before we get to our second proclamation, I'd like to make a move in the agenda, and I like to pull out of the consent agenda resolution number 155-21, appointing our police chaplains. We are honored to have so many with us this evening. And I know there are many flocks that are looking for their leaders, and we are so lucky to have this wealth, this abundance of wealth with us this evening. But there is a community that needs them as clearly more than being with us this evening on Zoom. So I'd like to get first, before I actually ask us to move this resolution, I'd like to yield the floor to our chief. Chief Duvall, to say a few words, and then we'll go from there. So Chief Duvall, I yield the floor to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I'd like to say that since the inception of the chaplains program, as you look around this Zoom room, the representation of volunteerism from both our Maplewood and South Orange clergy, it really speaks for itself. All I can say is I had an idea. I wanted to build something, and then my chaplains, they ran with it. We're on this meeting tonight, Mayor, because as things are getting back to normal, my chaplains are asking me to become more involved, and I really credit them. I credit their willingness to get involved, and they help out the police department, the police officers, and they are a great asset to the community, and I want to thank them.
Thank you, Chief. I mean, it goes without saying to have this leadership of the faith with us this evening, especially in the last year and a half plus during COVID. Everyone turned to all of you. for faith, for words, for guidance, for safety, for stability. And all of you were there for all of your flocks.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you think about it. I mean, without your words and your thoughtfulness, a lot of us would have had a more challenging time as we continue to get through this pandemic. So you were the leaders of our community, and I can't say more than just thank you so very much. And with that, I would love to move this resolution number 155-21. Can I get a motion, please?
Second. Did you move it or second?
I was asking for a motion, but Ms. Adams has moved it. So is there a second?
Sorry.
Second it. I second it.
Awesome. Any discussion? Clearly hearing none. Ms. Fritzen, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Adams,
Yes, thanks.
Mr. Davis,
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes. And before we leave, I just want to say that, we've gone through a lot of challenges, in the last year and a half. Obviously, we talk about COVID, but also many other challenges too, in terms of, justice and what's right and just. And, we've gone through terrible times, where there's been senseless acts of violence toward the Black community. We've also experienced senseless acts of violence, against, our Asian siblings. But now we're seeing terrible senseless acts of violence against our Jewish siblings as well. So, we need to understand that, in Maplewood and beyond, let's be pillars of what's right and just, and and be there for our fellow Jewish families, and make sure they know that we stand with them, that violence will not be tolerated, not in our community or any community. So we stand with you, Rabbi Cohen and Rabbi David, and all our rabbis, our Jewish brothers and sisters, our siblings, knowing that we stand with you and we love you.
Hey, Mayor, can maybe we just go around, they can introduce themselves?
Absolutely, Mr. DeLuca. If everyone doesn't mind spending a few minutes with us, love to let everyone do that. And I have the Hollywood Square, so I don't know how we should do this. It's a lot. So I'll just start with Rabbi Jesse. I see you right there on the left, so you can lead off.
Sure. Rabbi Jesse of Congregation Bethel. Thank you. Thank you to Chief DeLuca, to Chief Duvall, and thank you, Mayor Frank, for your statement just now.
Thank you, Rabbi Jesse. I see Reverend Rick. Oh, sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I just wanted to let you know that Rabbi Vaisberg is our newest member as well.
We're happy to have you, Rabbi David. He was, as I mentioned before we started the call, really beautiful words yesterday at our memorial event, and I appreciate you very much. So with that, since we give you a shout out, why don't we yield the floor to you?
Thank you. Hey, Rabbi David Weisberg. My synagogue is out in Livingston. I'm at Temple B'nai Abraham, but my family and we live in Maplewood, and I was introduced to immediate past Mayor Vick, and asked him the different ways to get involved, and he mentioned that police chaplaincy was one opportunity. And here we have people who, we have a lot of folks here, but especially our police department, they're people who work enormously hard in often thankless positions to make sure to keep our community safe, to allow us to all really flourish. And I want to be here to be of support to those people who give so much and who also, like us, sometimes make mistakes, who more than us face a lot of trauma. And I think it's good for us to give back however we can. This seemed like a wonderful way to give back. So I'm grateful to be here with all of you.
Thank you, Rabbi. I'm just looking here. I see Reverend Dr. Rick. So I'm going to yield the floor to you.
Sure. I'm Rick Boyer. I'm at Prospect Presbyterian. And I too want to thank the chief and all of you for the opportunity to serve. And knowing you have a long meeting in front of you, I'll say nothing more.
Thank you, Reverend. Just going left to right, I see a person who needs no introduction in my house, but Father Jim.
Hello, I'm a pastor of St. Joseph here in Maplewood, and I am very grateful that our congregation, being Catholic, is pro-LGBTQ, we're pro-police, we're pro-Jewish, Asian, and everyone else, and we're always trying to see what we can do to be better people. So I'm very fortunate and blessed to be a part of this community, which really is something that we don't have in every community. So thank you very much to everyone, and the chief for really putting this together, and Dean Daffis, thank you for your constant support of the LGBTQ community here at St. Joseph. I'm at risk being Catholic and speaking out, but thank God our cardinal is for this. So right now we're in good shape. So I'm grateful for this, and we're running with it. So we're offering pride events at my church this month. So we'll give you more information. So if you've ever heard of anything about the Catholic Church, this church is pro everything.
I think you got a pope who's kind of on your side. Father.
Amen. You're right. Thank you, birthday girl.
We call him Chief Rabbi Francis.
Yes. Rightfully so.
Oh man, thank you, Father Jim. Rabbi Cohen.
I just want to say ditto, and Father Jim just kind of touched on something that I was thinking about, which is I really look at our towns, and I see us right now as sadly being outliers, but being models. And I think what the chief has done with the chaplaincy program, and Mayor, what you and the town council have been doing, really stands out right now, which is to, at a time of division, is to work to focus on bringing people together rather than tearing us apart. And the opportunity to play a small role in that, not just in my congregational position, but also as part of this chaplaincy team with all of you, is truly an honor. I'm really quite grateful for it. But more importantly, I'm grateful for the work that's being done. Our world needs a lot more of this, and I'm glad that we get to model that for others. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi Cohen. I see Reverend Richardson, Reverend Dr. Richardson, sir. I see you there.
Hey, hello, everyone. I want to ditto what everyone has said, and I piggyback off of Rabbi Cohen. I want to salute the great people of Maplewood. Our Chief Duval is just is a wonderful person for this vision. We are so thankful. I've got a lot of friends between the two towns of Maplewood and South. And I'm so proud, and I say, how dare you determine that you can stand up and be unique in the country by embracing all people. So that's just wonderful. I'm proud to be a part of this. I do have a bone to pick with Mayor McGee. He chose Rabbi Olinsky to go first. I've been doing everything I can do to get Rabbi Cohen. Now I'm going to ask Rabbi David to help us. We've been trying to do something with Jesse. He gets out of hand every now and again.
Sorry, we'll talk
that's
tomorrow.
Out of love, everyone.
We'll talk tomorrow.
But, again, I just want to say thank you, and I did it.
Military's getting in trouble.
I may be new to the area, but I've been having lunch with Rabbi Olitsky's dad for years, and the apple doesn't fall far from. No,
it's starting to get ugly.
Seriously.
It's out of love. It's out of love.
Yeah, I know.
I want more. This is great.
It's sad you're in trouble with all this clergy on this.
This is awesome. Thank you, Dr. Reverend. Oh, man. I do see, speaking of another Reverend, I see Reverend Tyson. Reverend Tyson.
Yeah, hi, welcome. And many don't know me. I'm kind of the new guy in town. I came 2 years ago from Kansas, where I retired after 36 years being a chief chaplain at the regional medical center there. I want to say thank you to you, Mayor, and to the chief for allowing us to do this program. It's been a wonderful experience I've had so far of working with the department and getting to know the officers and sharing with them in their journeys. I also really appreciate, Mayor, the way in which you have used and the other people in the city council have used us in other public ways. And I think we need to see this as a chaplain's department, not only for the police department, but for our entire communities. And so as you've had experiences that we've had recently, where you've had community gatherings and you invited us to be a participant in that, thank you for including us. And I think that says something, great, not only about our program, but says something really positive about our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. I'm not sure we had some technical there, but we do appreciate your kind words. And, and obviously, all of you are pillars to our community. And so your voice and being part of anything we do, from moments of reflection on George Floyd to Memorial Day or any event against hate in our community, you being there with us arm in arm, it means a lot, because you are leaders, and a lot of our community see all of you more than they see us. So thank you for being part of that. We really appreciate that. Wow, this is amazing. It's like a celebrity list here. I see Reverend Norman.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Valencia Norman, the Reverend over at First Presbyterian and Trinity Church in South Orange, but Maplewood is my home. And as a matter of fact, not only is Maplewood my home, but my neighborhood is right around the street from Vic, and he gets to see me and my doggies as we take a walk now. So I was once on the street with the Township, and I used to say that I never lost my electricity when everyone else lost electricity because of it. And now I'm on the Hilton section. But truly, as all of my brothers and sisters have said about the way that the chaplaincy program has been integrated into the Township, and just the way that we have felt so much part of the police department, what Chief has been doing there, and allowing us to be part of the celebrations, the bereavements, just making sure that his officers know that they have a place to go has been so important. And also for the community, knowing that the faith community is behind them, and behind them always, as our Father has said, not just behind them in a spiritual way, but a social change. I said this Sunday in our time of worship that until we begin to notice that all lives in Black, in brown, in trans, in blue, in DACA, all of these things are so important to the fibers of our communities. And we just need to support them. And here we do it with our chaplaincy program. I say with my brother Rick that I should be very quiet, but as a person of the cloth, I don't think you can give us a moment without us getting really rambunctious about speaking. So thank you all. And we are just so pleased to be part of this opportunity to work in the community. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Reverend, and appreciate you and your words you provided during our George Floyd moment of reflection as well. I see Reverend Elders there, so I'd like to yield the floor to her.
Thank you. I'm Brenda Ehlers. I serve at Morrow Church in Maplewood. It's on Ridgewood Road. And I'm so grateful for the chief and the work that he has done. And I want to do a shout out to the officers. Beyond providing support to them, they really form a partnership with us in providing services above and beyond to our community. I know the showers over here at Morrow Church get used when there's people on the street who need them. The police department has partnered with us, making sure people have what they need when services are closed down. I mean, above and beyond, this force has shown compassion and care for everyone who shows up in this community. And it's really an honor and a privilege to serve alongside them, as well as support them in all the ways that they are supported.
Brenda, don't forget the Juvenile Restorative Justice Initiative that you.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's a bandwagon of mine, but it's also an incredible honor to work with the with the department on the restorative justice. And let's just put it out there and say that this is a police force that has said, when the community can handle a problem, and it's the community's job to do it, and not force themselves in places that it doesn't make sense to be there when kids have trouble. And when the community and the volunteers in the community can do it, we do. And it's really to embrace restoration and the restoration of relationships. Well, as the rest of you know, it preaches. So thank you for leading that way as well, Chief.
Thanks, Brenda.
And thank you, Reverend. Last year we did a whole restorative justice program, and you were amazing and really instrumental in raising the awareness of the program, which is really, your baby, if I may, and people were, really just were surprised that we had this program that existed. And it was your, blood, sweat, and tears that really was a big part of that. I personally thank you. It makes a big difference in a young person's life. So thank you. Thank you very much. I see Iman Latif, so I'm going to yield the floor to you, sir.
Good evening and greetings. Thank you all for the folks serving in the Maplewood Township. Thank you for serving. I know it's a difficult task, especially the meeting looks like it's going to be extremely long tonight. And thank you, Chief Duval, for all that you've been doing. The last couple of years, I've gotten to know you. I've resided in the Soma district for 25 years since the mid-90s. All 4 of my kids passed through the school district there. And I've been in clergy of some sort in Soma area since the mid-90s. And it's exciting to be, to be there whenever needed. I've already told the chief, I'm always available whenever. I was very, I made sure I stayed connected with him during the pandemic to make sure the officer had enough masks and so on to use. And, I know it's been a tough year, and I pray that God blessings be with all of you. I pray that God Almighty continue to guide you all and keep you safe during this pandemic, and to continue to serve and with peace and justice. And I pray that you all remain safe during this time, and I'm always here whenever needed. Thanks again.
Thank you, Iman. Inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and also I'm from, our mosque, our masjid is the Nia Masjid and Community Center based in Newark.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. I think, unless Chief, let me know if I missed anyone. I'm looking at all my boxes. I want to make sure if I missed anyone, please let me know. But that's who everyone I see. Is anyone else I've missed? Okay. Think we're okay, Chief?
Yes, all good, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief. So to our fellow clergy, thank you for again being part of our community and being really the pillars in our community. And thank you for your service. And you're more than welcome to stay, or you can go about your evening. But thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks again.
All right, so now we'll go ahead and move forward in our agenda, and we'll go back and we have a proclamation on Men's Health Month, and I'll yield the floor to Mr. Limbrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's only appropriate. I think when people think of healthy men in Maplewood, they think about Greg Limbrick, so thank you. Whereas despite advances in medical technology and research, men continue to live an average of 5 years less than women, with Native American and African American men having the lowest life expectancy. And whereas COVID-19 is destroying lives across the country, with the Centers for Disease Control reporting that males are more likely to die from this pandemic, and whereas encouraging safe behaviors, including social distancing, wearing masks, and being vaccinated will help stop the spread of COVID-19, and whereas educating the public and healthcare providers about the importance of a healthy lifestyle and early detection of male health problems will result in reducing rates of mortality from disease, and whereas men who are educated about the value that preventative health can play in prolonging their lifespan and their role as productive family members will be more likely to participate in health screenings, And whereas fathers who maintain a healthy lifestyle are role models for their children and have happier, healthier children. And whereas Men's Health Network worked with Congress to develop a national men's health awareness period as a special campaign to help educate men, boys, and their families about the importance of positive health attitudes and preventative health practices. Now, therefore, Frank McGehee, Mayor of the Township of Maplewood, and the Township Committee do hereby proclaim June 2021 as Men's Health Month in the Township of Maplewood and encourage all of our citizens to pursue preventative health practices and early detection efforts. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. And, you know, it should be noted that a lot of times that male individuals don't take their health seriously. We always cancel our annual checkups. We will get around to it. We think, theoretically think we're invincible, but it's really important to be mindful of your health and to do the proper, meetings with your physicians because, things happen. So it's really important to take care of your health. Without your health, everything else is secondary. So be mindful. And if you haven't reached out to your PCP in some time, because of COVID, take this time this month to pick up the phone or send an email and get that appointment. Everybody, we really want you to do that. So thank you, Mr. Lambert. We're now moving on to agenda item number 7. We have very exciting news here at the township, and I'm going to yield the floor to our township administrator, Mr. Jimes. Mr. Jimes.
Thank you, Mayor. This is very exciting. First off, I'll just start by saying that there was never any doubt that I wanted to be in this community, but every now and then something happens that confirms it. And the first 45 minutes or so of this meeting is just another example of that. So thank you again for the opportunity to serve this group. It really has been an amazing few months, and I look forward to many more. With that, I want to introduce to you our newest assistant township administrator, Bailey Barnett. She's on the call with us. I'm going to give her an opportunity to say a few words, but I just want to start off by providing a little bit of a background. Bailey has an undergraduate degree from Fordham University with a major in English and a minor in Peace and Justice Studies. She has a master's degree in public administration from the University of Missouri in Kansas City. Her most recent professional positions was with the Small Business Administration, where she was dealing with COVID-19 economic injury disaster loans and acting as a specialist there. I can only imagine how challenging a position like that would have been for the last year or so. Prior to that, she also served as a management analyst in Mission Hills, Kansas, and has worked previously at Jumpstart, a nonprofit group in the Bronx that deals with education, and the LP Cookingham Institute of Urban Affairs. Her public policy master's degree specialization is in urban policy and administration. We received a very large number of candidates for this position, as it is a very exciting position. And there were a lot of people from all walks of life with various credentials that applied. And, Bailey stood out for several reasons. Aside from the obvious professional and educational credentials, she really, in her interview, expressed an understanding of the values that make Maplewood, Maplewood. And, in addition to all of those credentials, that really was one of the most important things that I was looking for. Somebody who understood this community and wanted to be here for very much of the same reasons that I wanted to be here as well. And Bailey represents all of that. Academically, another thing that stands out was during her master's degree program, she was the founder of her university's branch of the ICMA, International City County Management Association, a group professionally that I hold near and dear to my heart. So Bailey is an excellent candidate. I'm proud to have offered her the position. I'm proud that she's here tonight. And I welcome Bailey to the community. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Bailey, so you can provide some thoughts and comments and introduce yourself to the Township Committee.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to meet all of you virtually tonight. As Jerry said, I'm very excited to be part of Maplewood, particularly because of just the spirit of the town and everything that the citizens and the committee stands for and supports and promotes. Just like a very inclusive and diverse place, which is awesome. I'm very excited to be a part of that now. As he said, I previously came from the Small Business Administration. Before that, I was working in Mission Hills, Kansas in a similar context. This is a little bit of a promotion for me, but I'm very excited to take on some new responsibilities and grow within my role. And I look forward to doing that alongside all of you. So again, it's nice to meet you all tonight.
Welcome, Bailey.
Welcome.
Well, congratulations, Bailey, and welcome to the family. We're happy to have you as well, and we all look forward to seeing you in the near future and spending some time with you. I know you got to get acclimated, and we're all here to help you do that. So welcome aboard, and thank you for being here tonight.
Mr. Jimes, Mr. Mayor, my understanding is that Bailey and Glenn will actually have at least a week or so of overlap. Is that right, for transition?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, because obviously Mr. Michalowski, there's a lot of institutional knowledge there. And this is not his last meeting. We'll have a chance to say our official farewells to Mr. Michalowski as he heads on to his next chapter, and he'll certainly be missed. So we won't get into that tonight. But I'm glad that Bailey will have a chance to overlap with him a little bit, so he'll have a chance to do some direct sort of some knowledge transfer and sort of pass the torch directly over the course of those few weeks. But welcome, Bailey. Look forward to meeting you in person.
Thank you. Well.
And Mr. Mayor, would you entertain a motion to move Resolution 16121 appointing Bailey Barnett as the new Assistant Township Administrator?
I absolutely would, Mr.
DeLuca. I move it.
Is there somebody second it? There we go. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes, nice to meet you.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes, welcome to the family, Bailey.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes. Bailey, welcome.
Thank you all.
Awesome. All right. And yes, and Glenn, yes, you will get roasted before you leave. So don't think you're
Look forward to it. And welcome aboard, Bailey. Transition.
You will be roasted, my friend. All good. Awesome. All right. So we'll now move on to agenda item number 8, which is public comment on agenda items only in a limit of 3 minutes. Nick, I'll yield the floor to you to see if we have anyone who wants to discuss anything on the agenda.
Okay, good evening, Mayor. We'll now get into the public comment portion of the meeting. So if you'd like to address the Township Committee, please use the raise your hand function. Mr. Michalowski will transfer you over to a panelist and we will give you 3 minutes to speak. First up, Mayor, Mr. Fred Profeta. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Township Committee and Mayor McGehee. That was a grand ceremony that I just watched. So it's nice to be in Maplewood and to see that sort of thing happen here. My reason for being here tonight, as some of you know, is to speak on the tree ordinance, which is on for your discussion tonight. You received an email from me, I sent it yesterday, which deals with the latest proposals for amendment to the tree ordinance. And thank you very much, by the way, for heeding my suggestions as to the first round of changes and amendments. I think they'll make the ordinance a lot stronger, and Vic has proposed some which obviously have the same effect, and I concur. And to the extent that he and I have some differences, I set them forth in my latest email. And if you have any questions with respect to that, after I finish a statement, if you care to ask me any, I'm available for that, or of course you can always get me during the day. I do want to say, though, that as to the general topic of this discussion item, trees in Maplewood, well, of course, it's a natural for Maplewood. We're not named Maplewood for nothing. And this town is quite famous for its trees. You'll often hear it referred to that when it's written about in the press. We were, I don't know if we still are, but we certainly were a tree city, which means that we were recognized for our trees. There are certain requirements for that designation, and I hope we're up to date on that. I don't see the signs where you enter Maplewood anymore as to the tree city, but if it's just a matter of taking down the signs, I hope they can be put up. You all know how important trees are to this town. All of you are attuned to environmental issues and problems of the day, and then obviously trees, which are a big carbon sink, are vital to our environment. They clean the air, they help our health, and they're beautiful. And the financial aspect of that is that it adds to our market values considerably. It was brought home to me in a personal way the other day when I was walking my dog on my block, Hickory, which has very robust market values. But, I looked around at the housing stock. And
30 seconds.
It's no more spectacular than other blocks. The thing that makes Hickory stand out is its trees. If you notice how many specimen trees there are on this block, that's what gives it such amazing character. I have more to say, but I'll save it for another time. As I said I would entertain any questions if you had any now about any of the things that I suggested.
Thank you, Mayor Perfetta. Any questions for the mayor? Mr. DeLuca.
Yeah. Did we lose Mr. Perfetta?
Sorry, I'll bring him back.
Yeah, can bring him back, please. I have a question.
Yeah, we can bring Mayor Perfetta back.
Yeah, there he is.
Okay. We can't see you, Fred. We can just see your, well, I guess you could see us.
No, I can't.
You
I
can't
unmute
see us?
myself.
Can you hear us, Fred?
It's all right. I can see Greg now.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, because I wanted to put up your suggestions. I don't know if you're going to be able to see us. They disabled the screening sharing. All right, forget it.
Well, I got him in front of me, Vic.
Yeah, no, I wanted to go back and forth.
Okay.
Glenn, can you put the screen sharing up?
Yeah, sure. I just disable it when members of the public are on.
Okay.
That's good.
That is very good. For more than one reason.
You're good to go.
Thank you. So, can you see this, Fred?
I see it says Vic DeLuca. Yes, I see this now.
Okay. So you had two suggestions that I saw. One was to propose doubling the diameter to 4 feet for the absolute protection of a specimen tree, correct?
Yes, as you've proposed with respect to historic and rare trees, giving it the same status at 4 feet that those.
Okay. And do you have any sense of the difference in the amount of trees between 2 feet and 4 feet, or even the age between 2 feet and 4 feet?
The age?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Yeah, I do. I just checked out. There's a tree, as you know, that's the center of a controversy at 17 Curtis, which is an oak, a pin oak, I believe, and it is about 3.8 feet in diameter. And I got the circumference too. When I put it in a formula, which puts in an age factor, I won't bore you with the formula right now. It's on, you can Google it. But the fact of the matter is that tree is somewhere between 200 and 250 years old by that formula. So those trees, trees that are at 4 feet in diameter have been here longer than we have, and will be after we're gone. So if you think to yourself, how many trees are there that are 4 feet in diameter? There's a whole lot on my block, but they're not consistently distributed around town. So I think that these are things that we need to try to save.
Okay. And then in the this new section that I put together, you're suggesting that if we were to include this section, that you think likely to cause the hardship is too indefinite of a word, correct?
Right, too indefinite of a standard, right.
Standard, right. And that you're suggesting that we say where a specimen tree stands in the way of development projects approved by the planning board or board of adjustment or permitted by right of zoning. And then where it is clear on the record that the boards have considered this ordinance before granting such approval.
Right. It's your language basically, and I
Right.
think it's good language.
Okay. So this would only be for trees really between 2 and 4 feet of diameter, correct?
Precisely, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I just wanted to be clear about that.
Okay, thanks, Vic.
Or over 4 feet in diameter, I would assume.
No, over 4 feet is not allowed.
They're
Right?
absolutely,
If you adopt both of them, the first thing would say over 4 feet, you can't remove. Unless it's a danger. Mr. Perfetta, if it's a danger and it's over 4 feet, you wouldn't resist having it removed, correct?
no, neither would I resist having rare or historic trees removed if they pose a danger.
Right.
The term we've been using in this ordinance is a real and significant danger to person or property.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Perfetta, and duly noted. All right. Is there anyone else who wants to address the Township Committee this time?
Yes, Mayor. Next up, we have John James. You have 3 minutes.
James.
You're muted, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good evening. I'm John James. I'm a registered architect, and I've had my practice in Maplewood for the past 27 years. I specialize in residential and historic architecture, and I've worked on over 650 houses during that 27-year career here out of my Maplewood office. Never in my practice have I encountered a tree ordinance that presumes to take precedence over an individual's right to build a house on a buildable lot in Maplewood. And I currently have a client in Maplewood on Curtis Place who is building a house for her parents next door. And she'll talk about that. But in all of my experience throughout over 50 jurisdictions in New Jersey, I have never had a case where it was presumed that a tree would trump the rights of an individual to build a house on their buildable lot on which they pay taxes. I think this is a blind spot in the current ordinance, and I think it's something that should be changed in your review of the ordinance. I think it's probably an unintended consequence. All of us want to protect the trees that are in Maplewood, but having a tree in the center of a lot that totally prevents building a house on a buildable lot, I think is wrong and is a blind spot in the ordinance. My clients have spent considerable time and money getting DEP approvals for this property, complying certainly with the zoning. We're only taking out one tree on a buildable lot that has many, many trees and has at least 6 or 7 other trees in the 19 to 30 inch diameter range that are not being touched. This is directly in the middle of the house itself and makes the lot essentially unusable for its intended purpose, which was a buildable lot for a house in Maplewood. We all like to save the trees, but you should be able to build your house on a lot in our township. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Okay, Mayor, next up we have Mimi Luai. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Mimi Liu. I live at 17 Curtis, and the lot we're talking about is 11 Curtis, right next door. My 8-year-old daughter counted 72 trees on the lot, by the way, and we are talking about 1. So my husband, my 8-year-old daughter, and I have lived here for 5 years. I have spent 5 years in trying to figure out a way to build a house for my parents, who are nearly 80 years old. My sister and her 2 sons live in Maplewood as well, about 5 blocks away. So my dad has stage 4 Parkinson's and rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune, inflammatory, and debilitating disease. I mean, he is basically in a wheelchair. And we are trying to build a barrier-free house that is elderly friendly, so that they can spend their the rest of their years with their grandkids. There are 3 grandkids here in town. The tree is in the middle of their proposed sort of living room and kitchen where they would be hanging out. My mom is his sole caregiver. She is a Mini Cooper. She's sort of nonstop and sort of focused on his care. And it's hard for her because she is 78 years old. So time is not on our side. And not being able to remove this tree causes a hardship for us. Again, it's one tree and it stands in the way of their health and their well-being. So that's, I mean, thank you for your time and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Liu, for your narrative and for providing your public comment. It's appreciated.
Okay, Mayor, next up, Scott DeAndrea, 3 minutes.
Everyone, thank you for your time. We spoke about turf fields a few weeks ago, and I'm here to add a few thoughts to the discussion. My name's Scott DeAndrea. I've been part of the Maplewood Girls Lacrosse Club family for 12 years. I've been a coach for 7 of those years. Each of my 3 girls have played lacrosse for MGLC, and I've been here long enough that I've watched 3rd grade girls learn how to hold a stick, catch and throw, and then watch those same girls play for Columbia High School many years later. Both of my older girls played for Columbia, and I'm currently coaching my 6th graders as we approach the end of our season. So at the town hall a few weeks ago, I kind of spoke about how sports are important to the development of our children, not just physically, but the camaraderie, competition, and teamwork, help our kids with social interactions and building relationships. I was hoping to add a couple of facts about the turf fields I didn't get to last time. One thing I did mention is that in all my years of coaching, we've never been able to start the season on time. Recent snows melt. We have a lot of rain in February and March, and the fields are always closed for mud. And each year we got to either practice indoors or not at all because of the field conditions. One of the things my teams have always been jealous of are facilities at every away game we have. Doesn't matter if the town is near. Doesn't matter if the town is far. If it's a wealthy town. If it's a more working class town, we travel up to an hour for these games and tournaments, and every one of our competitors have these beautiful turf fields. Most of them have lights, and our girls are wondering why we don't have these kind of facilities. Chisholm, as I mentioned, has got a lot of holes and divots, and a rolled ankle or twisted knee might end up far worse sometime in the future. So I'm hoping to avoid some serious injuries. A couple of facts about turf fields I just want to mention I didn't get to last time. A lot of people say that the turf fields are worse for the environment. Synthetic fields require minimal maintenance. Grass fields require fertilizers and pesticides and fungicides, and turf fields don't need gas mowers or weed whackers. Also, the grass fields need a lot of water. They require tons of rest, especially after rain. The one thing people have been complaining about is the crumb rubber. Turns out these newest turf fields are made without crumb rubber. The turf infill is non-toxic and allergen-free. People complain about how hot the turf fields are. The latest generation of fields are now made with cooling systems and air ducts underneath, so the field's a lot cooler than they used to be. And overall, they're cheaper. So
30 seconds.
Over the course of the over the life of the field, it'll be cheaper. So in closing, I just want to catch up with the rest of the communities around us. Please install the turf fields our kids need and deserve.
Did we lose the mayor? Is it just my screen I don't see him on?
No, we might have lost him entirely. You are not wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Deputy Mayor, do you want to, it looks like the mayor may have rejoined us.
He's back. Yeah, I was just going to say that the turf field's not on the
Sorry
agenda.
about that. I lost my connection here. It's a lot of streaming going on at this point. So my apologies. Nick, where are we?
Okay, Mayor. So next up we have Stefan Collodi.
Mayor, point of order. If you're still, these public comments, to my knowledge, this item is not on the agenda tonight, so they should wait till the next public comment, no?
Yep, no, that is correct, Ms. Adams. So again, on agenda item only, 3-minute limit. I do see Mr. Kroll here, so I'm sure he's going to talk about the agenda. So Nicholas, yield the floor to Mr. Kroll, please.
Okay, Mr. Kroll, you have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. And there was, I've been approved. My name is Wayne Kroll. My office is at 12 North Way, Maplewood, New Jersey. I was approved for a 3-lot subdivision for 2 families on Boyden Parkway. And I applied for the tree permit, which is necessary. And then to find that there was some trees on the property that exceeded the 2 foot in diameter. So we've since then have reviewed the ordinance, and it was good enough for the engineer and the arborist to go out and take a look at everything. And my engineer and surveyor have been able, I think they originally had it between 4 and 6 trees that were in question. I was able to get it down to only 2 trees. 2 of the 3 lots, by moving the building envelope, can now be compliant, from what I understand, thanks to the help of Lenny Mendola and the engineer and my engineer to move the house and reconfigure it. 1 lot is still in question, that there are 2 trees that are in the building envelope, and it would be impossible to build the house, with those trees in the way. I know that the intent of the ordinance was never to cause hardship for development. And I think it was intended so that a situation that arises like this, that you do meet with and you try to compromise and you try to figure out a way to figure out the problem. One of the solutions I feel, and I know I have only a little bit of time, would be I would have no problem with planting specimen trees wherever the town felt needed to replace the trees if I was allowed to take the 2 trees down. And I think that is a solution, that could help ease the removal of the trees that are necessary for development. And I look forward to building the homes there. I think that's going to be an asset for the town. And I definitely think that if one of the lots were deemed unbuildable, that it would definitely be a hardship based on the cost of what land costs in Maplewood, and the fact that a home built on that property would be so desirable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Nick, anyone else, agenda items only, you want to address the Township Committee?
Okay, Mayor, next up would be Lawrence Hecht. If you would like to speak on agenda item only, you have 3 minutes. If not, we'll move you back to an attendee.
Is it back to attendee? I want to talk about turf.
Thank you. And then same thing with Stefan Colodi. If you would like to speak on agenda item only, let us know. If not, we'll move you back to an attendee.
Good, moving back to an attendee. Thanks.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, the folks who want to speak on turf or any other subject not on the agenda, it's not that you can't speak tonight. It's just that your comment goes in the second public comment section, which will be a little later in the meeting after we approve the budget and vote on the ordinances and some of the other items on the agenda.
That is correct, Mr. Limbrick.
So, we do want to hear from you. It's just has to come during the right portion of the meeting.
Okay, Mayor, we just had someone pop in. Joe F. You have 3 minutes and you're on the phone.
No, Joe, that's part of the budget.
Okay, then you guys are all set.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate that. Okay, we will now close our public comment, which is on agenda items only, and we'll move to agenda item number 9. Ms. Fritzen?
Yes, Mayor. Item number 9 will be speaking about the 2021 municipal budget. And I'm going to go over some proceedings for the virtual budget hearing. Mayor, this is a time fixed for the virtual public hearing on the 2021 municipal budget. The budget was approved by the governing body on May 4th, 2021, was advertised as required by law on May 6th, 2021, together with notice of hearing for this time. Printed copies have been made available to the public during the past week in a supply at the public library and the municipal building. So we also have copies here for anyone desiring same. Mayor?
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Anyone who has not secured a copy of the budget may do so now.
Mayor, I have a resolution regarding the reading of the budget by title. Resolution number 163-21 is to read the budget by title. Item 10 on your agenda.
Understood. I offer the foregoing resolution and move its adoption.
So second. Ms. Adams? Ms. Adams?
Did we lose Ms. Adams?
No, I only want to say yes once because I'm not happy about it. So don't make me say it over and over.
Yes and yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes. Resolution is adopted. Before opening this hearing, I wish to outline the procedure. Each person desiring to be heard will give his or her or their name and address us before speaking. I will recognize one speaker at a time as nearly as I can determine. Nick, do we have anyone who would like to speak?
Members of the public who want to address the governing body about the budget?
Do not have anyone, Mayor.
Thank you, Nick. Hearing none, I will now declare that the open hearing is now closed. I hear no further applications for the floor, so I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So move.
May I get a second, please?
Second.
I'd like to, Ms. Fritzen, I'd like to put a motion to call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And that will conclude the budget proportion of our agenda. We will now move on to agenda item number 14, which is our Board of Health meeting. I will yield the floor to
Mayor, my apologies, Mayor, but we will need to make a motion to table the adoption of the budget.
So noted. I will take that motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the table? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
She said yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen, and thank you, Mr. Kaloje. We'll now move on to agenda item number 14, Board of Health meeting. I'll yield the floor to Deputy Mayor.
Hello?
Mr. Daffis.
Hello?
We're off the hook. We're off the hook, Mr. Falcone.
Okay, I just wanted to wish Nancy Adams a happy birthday and tell her that she's sharing the same day as I am.
Wow, that's great.
Very good.
You me in Maryland. There you go.
Okay, very good. Okay.
And
Good night, everyone.
John Kaufman.
Happy birthday.
That's right.
Thank you. Likewise.
That was awesome. Okay, Mr. Daffis, I'm going to yield the floor to you to start our Board of Health meeting. I know we have a lot of things to discuss.
We do, Mayor. Thank you. I think we have a statement by the clerk first.
Mr. Daffis, your statement is first. Would you like me to read it?
No. I'll get to it. Just a minute here. I've got all these windows open.
We can play a music interlude.
Here we go. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of New Jersey, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2021 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2020, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams? Mr. DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. Lembrick?
Here.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes, here.
And Mr. Daffis?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231 Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the Board of Health has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas desire the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provisions of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Maplewood Board of Health and Township of Maplewood does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the Board of Health at all its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. I move the approval of the board minutes from our May 4th meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes. Thank you again, Ms. Fritzen. Health Officer Davenport, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, sir. Good evening, everyone. Glenn, may I share my screen?
Yeah, let's see. Let me just re-enable it.
Thank you. While he's doing that, I just want to say welcome aboard to Ms. Barnett as our Assistant Administrator, and happy birthday to Ms. Adams. And a thank you for passing the resolution to continue with our health employees. That's one of the resolutions for Shahira Morel and Talia Jeffer, so thank you very much. And thank you to the Township Committee for passing those two resolutions for Pride Month and Men's Health Month. So thank you for championing that, Mr. Lembrick and Mr. Daffis, for saying those things. Am I ready to go, Mr. McClassic? Perfect. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Not yet.
No? Okay. Sorry. Glenn, am I able to
Yeah, it's enabled. You just have to.
share screen? Share screen would probably help. Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's give you an update of COVID. We are in great shape. So, but not out of the woods yet. But I do want to focus on the high notes and the positive cases that we're in right now. Our total number of cases as of as of June 1st, as of today, is 1,541 in total. Our number of cases for the month of May has only been 32. A huge cry from what we were in April, which was 144 cases. So our caseload has been dropping significantly. I do believe that this is in part because of the increased vaccination rates that we have in our town, but as well as around the state. So this is good. Springfield Avenue testing site with Salerno Medical, the NJ COVID team, they were there for the months of April and May. They have now concluded, and they tested, 390 people during those last 2 months. So thank you to them. Let me give you some updates on where we are with Maplewood vaccinations. This is the next phase of COVID, right? We have to make sure that as many people as we can are getting tested and then vaccinated if they're eligible. So as of May 25th, we have data on those who are 12 and up. Those are, again, who are 12 and older are eligible to be vaccinated. We have 64% of 12 and over fully vaccinated. 14% are getting their first dose. So it's a potential total of 78%. Moving up to the 18 and over, we have a potential total of 81%. You can see that 70% are fully vaccinated. These are all good signs and we're moving in the right direction. We still have to encourage people to get vaccinated though, and initiate that first initial dose so that we can get more people and our herd immunity and our overall community protection up all the more. As for those who are 65 and older, our seniors are at a potential total of 97%. They are the highest number of fully vaccinated. They've had a longer time to get vaccinated, but this is all hopeful. This will reduce our hospitalizations and deaths among the elderly. So due to COVID, and so this is all good news. Let me also share with you that in New Jersey, we have 4,235,201 people fully vaccinated in the state of New Jersey. Our governor's goal is to vaccinate 70% of the adult population 18 and over. So that's 4.7 million by the end of this month. I'm hopeful that we'll get there. We still need to keep promoting vaccinations. So people can go to covid19.nj.gov/vaccine to find out where they can go within the area for a vaccine for those 12 and over. In Essex County, we have 327,545 people fully vaccinated. This again is great news. Prior to that, last month, we had about 24% of our county residents vaccinated. Now we're up to approximately 40%. So we are moving up there. One of the things that I wanted to say is as we are getting past COVID, and again, I want to emphasize that this was a global pandemic, one for the history books, once in a lifetime, hopefully, event. There are other things that the health department does. One of them is to monitor the health, safety, and wellness of all of our residents, but also to track trends in causes of death. This helps us to do prevention efforts, treatment efforts, and provide for programming in our community. I just want to give you the 2010 to 2019 trend for 10 leading causes of death among New Jersey residents. This is information from a New Jersey State Health Department database called the State Health Assessment Data. To briefly give you the short end of it, heart disease and cancer are consistently the two leading causes of death. They make up about half of all deaths in New Jersey and have been consistently the issue. So as we are emerging out of COVID, we will be doing and continue our efforts to increase our screenings for heart disease, as well as for cancer and our health education programs. Along with heart disease, stroke is the third leading cause of death up until 2015. Now, heart disease and stroke is kind of cardiovascular disease, so they kind of go hand in hand along with diabetes. But I want to bring up to note the green bars that are slowly increasing up those leading causes of death, and that is unintentional injuries. So unintentional injuries have creeped up from 2010 from the 5th rank to now the 3rd, and it is consistently staying there. What you may not realize is that unintentional injuries are the leading cause of death for ages 15 to 49 years of age. It is also the 3rd leading cause among all ages combined in 2019, as you can see here. One of the things that I'm really passionate about as your health officer, and I feel like it's my duty to inform you as the Board of Health, about all of these things, is that unintentional injuries are for the most part preventable. So this is one of the things that I believe strongly in as your health officer is prevention and what we can do in the community. Unintentional injury kind of is like a big pocket of things. It includes accidents, poisonings, both from drugs, alcohol, fumes, pesticides, accidental poisonings, and accidents, motor vehicle crashes, falls, fire, drowning, and suffocation, just to give you an example of what's in there. So we have our work cut out for us to increase awareness. One of the things I've always done is to push the NJ PIE's phone number for the poison control program in New Jersey. So these are just some of the things that I want to bring up to your attention that we will be promoting and pushing the information, education, awareness about these unintentional injuries. Lastly, I just want to update you on environmental health issues. So thank you to our Department of Community Services. They have put up signs in all of our parks at all the entrances to say no dogs off leash, so residents can enjoy the park and see the signs and know what is expected of them as they walk their dog through the parks. We also want to say thank you. We're collaborating with the Department of Community Services as well as with St. Hubert's and the police department so that people can call the police department who are open 24/7. In the event that they see someone off leash, they can go there to the park and educate them, at all hours to say, you may not realize this, but you need to put dogs on your leash when you're in the park just to prevent further injury to others. And that would be, again, another unintentional injury, as we had discussed earlier. Also, construction by the elementary schools. So residents may not know that there will soon be construction at the end of this month at all of our 5 elementary schools in Maplewood. This major construction at each of these sites may cause some rodent issues. So we are asking, and we've spoken with the school district, they're aware and are increasing their efforts to put out rodent control practices 10 to 15 days prior to construction, and they're on board with that. However, this is a note to educate the residents around those schools that any major construction may cause a disturbance in rodent control. So please maintain your property now. So some of those things that you can do, and they're very easy to do in your property, are to keep your garbage not lying around, but put it in a bin and close it. Compost bins should be closed. Any bird seed should be closed in a container because that does attract rodents. Pick up after your dog. That is also super important as well. Any debris. So if you missed spring rakeout, you can also call your garbage company to pick up any debris, but debris can be where they can hide and harbor, can have their shelter there. So please clean up any debris, rocks, construction equipment, leaves, twigs, any kind of household materials that are left outside in any backyard should be cleaned up. This will all help to mitigate any rodents in the community as we move into this much needed construction. And that is all I have for you today. I will stop sharing my screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. Are there any questions from my colleagues from the Township Committee for Ms. Davenport?
I just have one for the mitigation of rodents, obviously are logical things. At our next Board of Health meeting, I would love the same kind of information on mosquitoes. Instead of spraying pesticides all over our properties, we can mitigate that issue as well. So I think that would be valuable. Thanks.
Absolutely, that's great. We can definitely do that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I had a question. And I was hoping that Ms. Davenport could address, and that's, whether it be the Township Committee or other boards and committees in the township, at what point do you think it will be safe for us, from a health and safety standpoint, to resume in-person meetings in township buildings?
So I'll leave that to, the Township Committee and the administrator to, make that decision on your own when you all are feeling comfortable. But my feeling is that if everyone is fully vaccinated and you keep airflow through the room, I know that there's no air conditioning in the big, large committee room at Town Hall, if I remember. So, looking at September or in the fall, when you can open up some of the windows, leave some of the doors to increase ventilation, start up those fans again, that will also help. When you open up to being in person, there's also the discussion of bringing people into the building as well, right? So again, it behooves all of us to make sure that everyone is vaccinated as much as possible. If they're unvaccinated, we have signs on our doors already in place at Town Hall and all the township buildings saying that anyone who's unvaccinated, we are strongly recommending to please wear your mask indoors and exercise caution when you are outdoors engaging in social activities. So lots can change between June and September, but that's where the guidance is right now. But it really is up to, how comfortable you feel. And I would always say to move slowly and gradually into it. So you can start off in person, bring more people in slowly as you see fit.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and I just know, obviously it's a decision that the Township Committee will make, but obviously, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn and speaking for my colleagues that we're going to be looking to you and our other experts for guidance as we make those decisions. So thank you, Ms. Davenport.
Oh, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions for my colleagues? I see no other questions from my colleagues. We're going to open it up to the public to address the Board of Health. Nick, do we have anyone?
Deputy Mayor, I do not have any takers.
No takers for the Board of Health. Okay, well, I move that we adjourn this meeting and meet again on July 6th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGehee,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Mayor, turning it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll now move on to agenda item number 15. We have an ordinance on final.
Mayor, ordinance on final passage, ordinance number 3030-21. It's an ordinance to amend chapter 123 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Fees. This ordinance will establish the sewer fees beginning in 2021.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Would anyone like to speak on the establishment of sewer fees for 2021?
I see no one, Mayor.
Thank you, Nick. Hearing no one, will close the public hearing. May I will move it myself. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a past ordinance in the Maplewood Southwest News Record according to law.
I second.
Any further discussion?
I think it might behoove us to explain to the public what is happening on these sewer fees, because it's kind of, not really known as to why we're raising them. So maybe Mr. Daffis from Finance can.
Yeah. So we have two charges, right? So the sewer fee currently is $204, right? And so now with our payment to the joint meeting capital improvement, it's an incremental charge of $37. And then also, we're also looking for a capital improvement for ourselves during all of our sewers and the issues that we're dealing with from an infrastructure perspective of $40. So incrementally, you take that 37, that 40 added to the 204, it brings it up to $281. One of the things that we talked about previously is that we have been very consistent with a flat sewer fee. So obviously people use different levels of sewage, but it's been maintained as the same fee. But obviously with the joint meeting, which Mr. DeLuca is chair, and then also with the improvements which you had to make, such as on Boyden Avenue, where we know we've had some blockage and engineering, we talked about looking at it from a camera perspective. These fees are necessary so we can move forward to address basically almost 100-year-old sewer infrastructure. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We now have another ordinance on final.
Yes, Mayor. Item 16, ordinance on final passage, ordinance number 3031-21. An ordinance to amend classification of employment positions within the Township of Maplewood and to establish salary ranges for employees. This ordinance will revise classification of employment positions and salaries within the Township of Maplewood, consistent with the revision of the Table of Organization established within the Township of Maplewood.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public with accordance of the law. Would anyone like to speak on the revision of our table of organization that we're establishing in relation to positions and salaries in the Township of Maplewood?
I see no one, Mayor.
Thank you, Nick. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. I will move this. All right. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a pass ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law. Can I get a second, please?
I second the motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We have an introduction, ordinance on introduction, rather.
Yes, Mayor, it's item number 17, introduction of new ordinance, ordinance number 3032-21 is an ordinance to amend chapter 271 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations. This ordinance will readopt certain provisions of ordinance 2915-18 and make certain modifications to same with regard to alternative treatment centers.
Mr. DeLuca, can I get a motion, please?
Yes, I move this ordinance. I'm sorry, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on June 15th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? No worries. Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We now have our agenda item number 18, which is reports from departments. I know Mr. Kaloje is with us. Mr. Kaloje, would you like me to yield the floor to you, or are you okay? Well, I think he's out of here, actually. He left.
Yeah, I don't think he's here.
We did our
Oh,
budget.
there he is. He's there.
No, he's back.
He's like, choo.
He went away during the sewer fee discussion.
He was like this.
You bailed. You bailed on the sewer fee.
Hilarious. All good. I got you, CFO Joe. Do you have anything you want to discuss from a department perspective?
I have nothing to add this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kaloje. Seeing that we've already heard from our health officer, we will close that portion of the agenda and we'll now move on to administrative reports. And we'll hear first from our Township Administrator, Mr. Jimes. Mr. Jimes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things tonight. First, an update on the pool construction that is moving along. As you know, it got started late and then there were delays as it relates to COVID and then various other delays with the contractor. They are moving forward. Our goal is to be open Father's Day weekend. We are preparing for that and have been actively moving towards that. The Recreation Department, led by Melissa Mancuso, has been working around the clock. The contractor is working on a regular basis, and you know, it's in there. Certain things can be done separately. Certain things the Recreation Department can't do until the contractor finishes. So, you know, we're doing our part on our end. There is one issue that you should be made aware of, and that is as it relates to the lifeguard bid that we approved at the last meeting. As you know, as a result of some of the issues that happened prior, we decided to contract that out. We did get a low bid. We did award a contract. As of now, for the last couple of days, that contractor seems to have been unresponsive to us, ghosting us, for lack of a better word. And I am working, Melissa has been preparing and has been working with me to be prepared in the event that that continues to do what we have to do to staff accordingly. You know, obviously we followed the instruction to get the bid, but there was only one bidder, so we can't even go to the next bidder. So that could be a situation that we're dealing with, you know, on an emergency level, on the staff level, and we will be prepared, assuming the pool is ready to be open, and we're working on contingencies at the moment. If the contractor doesn't respond, then I'll be, leaning on Roger for the proper procedures on how to, effectively deal with that contract if it gets to the point where we just get no response from the contractor.
Yeah, if I may, and we certainly can, but I think it might be appropriate, if that's the case, Mr. Jimes, for the Township Committee to give you the authority to proceed to hire at whatever, because we're not going to have another meeting till the 18th, and I guess Father's Day, I'm sorry, 15th. Is Father's Day before or after that? Before, that's the weekend before, right, Father's Day?
After.
No, it's immediately after. The pool would be set to open on Saturday, the 19th.
Okay.
Ms. Desiderio. So, but if we're not giving authorization to hire until Tuesday, the 15th, that gives them basically 72 hours to hire a staff. So I think if, we probably need an emergency meeting, or if there's some sort of authorization we can give in the meantime. I don't want to give Ms. Mancuso and her team, I don't want to put them in a situation where they're having to, they'd already been in a situation where they would have to scramble to hire. So, maybe if there's nothing we can do tonight, at least Mr. Giles maybe can keep us updated and let us know, and you can know what we would have to do in an emergency to give them the authority they would need.
I think it would be adequate just to provide that guidance now, that in the event that, Roger determines that we have to cancel this contract, just to let us get moving. Now, we had been, fortunately, Melissa and I had been preparing for contingencies in advance, because going into the bid, we didn't know if we would get one bidder. So we were kind of preparing for that. So we're not going to be completely behind the 8 ball if this does occur. But yeah, I think there's nothing that I could think of from a statutory standpoint or a public contract standpoint, a personnel standpoint, that says you can't just provide that authorization if Roger determines that we have to.
I think if someone could move that to give him the
I
authorization.
move it.
Second. What I said.
You almost said it about 5 minutes ago.
Right, we can come back. That's what I thought I did. We can come back for funding on the 15th.
Okay, so any further discussion regarding authorization? Mr. Daffis?
No discussion on authorization. However, as many of you have probably seen in social media, there's been national press about the lack of staffing for lifeguards at pools across the country right now. It's very difficult to find youth to fill these jobs. So are we keeping that in mind and maybe considering a phased in reopening based on, if we only get a few lifeguards and not at full capacity?
Yeah, everything's on the table, and we have what's referred to as the bath code in New Jersey that determines how many lifeguards need to be on a facility, and for some reason scheduling doesn't permit that to happen. We just, in the interest of safety, won't be open.
Thank you.
So okay, any further discussion? Let's move this. Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Mr. Giles, you still have the floor.
Thank you. I sent an email out to the Township Committee last week giving you an update on the new electric vehicle announcement from the Ford F-150. I met with engineering. I met with DPW. We've been speaking about this. We're going to move forward in anticipation of next year's capital budget, putting down $100 refundable deposits on these, and just so we kind of get in line as we move forward. This process will continue probably until the fall. We'll have to decide sometime around September, October, whether you actually want to make the purchase, in which case then we would have to put an order in and get purchase orders. So we would need to prepare a bond ordinance accordingly, but at least at the moment, these deposits are refundable, and we just want to get in line for these. And we've already been working with our state contract vendor to the extent they have the availability. And, I think this goes with the Township Committee's goal and my goal that whenever possible moving forward, any vehicle we buy is going to want to be electric, whether it's pickup truck or administrative. So number 3, I also sent out an email last week regarding Hoplite Communications and the rollout of 5G in Maplewood. We have been advised that Verizon is going to be approaching the township in the next several weeks about coming here and installing 5G. The thought of, and I'm not suggesting this was anybody's thought here, but just the thought of municipalities trying to block these and saying they're not allowed, is simply not a feasible option. It's not permitted. It's been tried. It's been litigated, and we have no choice other than to provide a reasonable accommodation pursuant to statute for these people, for Verizon to come in and install this 5G network. So to that end, there are not that many people in the state that are dealing with this from a legal and consulting standpoint. There's only 2 credible ones that I know of at the moment that have been vetted by some people in the business that I trust. There may be more, but these are the 2 main ones that everybody's been talking about. Hoplite Communications, headed up by attorney Peter Lupo, has submitted a proposal to be our consultant in this matter. They would help establish an ordinance that provides those sensible parameters. They would oversee construction. They would write an ordinance. They would negotiate all the agreements with Verizon on our behalf, obviously subject to your guidance, and review all contracts. Roger has seen this information, said he would offer some insight on it and speak in favor of using this group. There's no cost to the group. They get paid through plan fees from Verizon as a pass-through. So there's no cost to the municipality for this consulting service. And from an LPCL standpoint, it would be a professional service because Mr. Lupo is providing legal and consultative advice.
Yeah, and I agree. And in his proposal, he says on 3 separate occasions, there's no cost to the township. So I'm comfortable with that.
And just a question, whether this is for Mr. Johns or Mr. Desiderio. So in terms of, so Verizon comes in and does what they do to install the 5G, in what direction does money flow and how much, does it flow to the township? Does it flow from the township? Does it flow to or from private property owners?
The answer, I believe the answer is that there's a very minimal fee the township will ultimately collect. And that's really all there is. Verizon has existing pole contracts with PSE&G as to whether they own the poles or PSE&G owns the poles. So I don't think it's a significant moneymaker for the township at all. But we'll get more details on that, Mr. Lembrick, when we deal with the consultant.
Okay, so the consultant won't be a cost to us, and but at a minimum, the installation of this 5G it won't be a debit to us. It may be a slight credit, but it probably is not going to really move the needle financially for us much one way or the other. But it's not like we're going to end up having to pay for this.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure this wasn't something we were going to get stuck with a bill for, because it's the last thing we need.
Yeah, I'll have a service that for the next meeting.
All right. I mean, according to the internet, I already got, Bill Gates already gave me the 5G when I got my COVID vaccine. So, I'm not afraid of anything anymore.
I got one too. So lastly, I just want to update you on the Hart Field, regarding turf. We discussed this last week and I was instructed to go seek out proposals for a study. I did meet with an engineer on site the next day with the Director of Recreation and Cultural Affairs. He has, looked at it, provided a proposal. He will be available at the June 15th Township Committee meeting to provide a report and discuss with you your various options. He did submit a proposal, and I would say in some, he provided a cost estimate for a project of this magnitude that would be probably in between $1.5 and $1.8 million. Some of that could be mitigated by a few $100,000 depending on what we end up doing with the fill if we take it or get rid of it ourselves. And then also he estimated, because we were talking about the Maple Crest issue as well, that some monies would be available left over from that to help deal with the drainage issues on Maple Crest. The consulting fee to do all the design, the construction, the overseeing the bid, preparing the bid specifications would be about 8% of that $1.5 to $1.8 million. To move forward with that, if you wanted to move forward with that at some point after hearing the report or in anticipation of the report, the first major step is going to be passing a bond ordinance, because to that effect, based on that estimate, because that's where that consultant fee comes out of. It comes out of soft cost of that bond ordinance. So as you discuss this, internally or publicly here, that is really the first significant step that you have to take as a governing body, is passing a bond ordinance, moving forward with this project. And of course, as you know, with ordinances, you'll have a first reading, a second reading, and a public hearing. So nothing is final until the ultimate passage of said ordinance.
Understood. So Mr. Jimes, essentially the engineering consulting firm will come in 2 weeks and present their findings, and we can have that discussion and move from there, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That Collier's again, same as was for the spray park?
Yeah, different engineer who has done, numerous turf fields, and there's a online portfolio as well that I can send out that you'll be able to see the various work that they've done.
And do I understand correctly, they will be presenting their proposal to us at our public meeting?
Yeah, I mean, more just kind of presenting the issue of the heart, what you have there, what needs to be improved, and how they would envision a turf field.
Got it. Thank you, Jared.
So do you need anything from us tonight, or are you okay at this point, next steps?
No, I mean, I'm okay. The only thing that you have to decide on between now and then is when you would want a first reading, potentially for a bond ordinance to be, and instruct Joe and auditor and bond counsel to work on that ordinance.
Okay. So essentially, if we, after the presentation on the 15th, we can have the first reading on the first week in July then?
Correct.
Okay.
That is all I have. Other comments maybe for consent agenda items.
Thank you, Mr. Jimes. Any questions for Mr. Jimes?
I do. I'm just wondering about the contractor for the pool and if we've imposed any fees on the delay and the multiple delays during the course of this project.
If we were going to have any kind of damages, liquidated damages, that really is that's far after the fact of any completion. And the chance, in my experiences on liquidated damages for construction projects, it is very hard to successfully win those cases.
Yeah, it's also premature, and I think it's very premature to have discussions about delay damages before he finishes the job. That's not an incentive for having him get done. So I don't think we should have any conversations about that till well after the project's done and up and running.
Okay, I was just concerned about the timing because it is of the essence, for example, but they do have a performance and maintenance bond, I'm assuming.
They have a performance and maintenance bond, but that's not the liquidated damages issue. The issue is, and they're going to be a lot of issues, as to the issue of the pumps and the availability of the pumps and COVID. So, really, I think it's just way, way premature. Let's get the work done. Let's get the pool open. Then we can fight if we need to fight.
Yeah, but they've already missed the deadline by close to a month. So, it's a fight we probably are going to have.
I can assure you that.
Again, I think I keep saying the same thing. It's premature to have this conversation in public, guys. Please, let's not do this.
Duly noted, Mr. Desiderio. We will move on. Any additional questions for Mr. Jimes? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Jimes. We'll now hear from, nice segue from our from Mr. Desiderio.
I have no report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Desiderio. Any questions for Mr. Desiderio? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on. I will now yield the floor to our Township Clerk, Ms. Fritzen.
Thanks, Mayor. I have a couple of things. So we did offer a very nice ceremony yesterday for Maplewood residents and any other guests that came to our celebration with our ceremony. And hopefully next year things will be different where we can have more activities. But it certainly was a step up from what we were able to offer in the heat of COVID last year. So again, the clerk's office was happy to work with the mayor on the planning for this, and I think it was very, very successful. My other item is to just remind everyone that we have a primary election a week from today on Tuesday, June 8th. And voting hours are 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we did put out a piece on voting with a lot of pertinent information for the deadlines, polling locations, the districts involved, the moving of the 2 districts at Morrow to the Woodland. And again, that's been widely distributed up on the township website. And I try to make these informational pieces not all cluttered, but easy to read for people so that they don't just start reading and stop reading. So that's up on the township website. And at the next township committee meeting on the 15th, we'll be having 3 resolutions on the agenda for our liquor licenses for 2021 and through 2022. And that's our plenary retail consumption licenses, distribution licenses, as well as the 1 club license that we have. And previous to the 15th, you will get a report from all the departments that normally respond back to me as to any problems that any of these licensees have encountered in the past year, because I call this is our the period where we certainly can get things corrected fast because they want to get renewed certainly on the 15th and before June 30th. And that's code enforcement. We have a lot of leverage there on things that might be not kept up on their property, police reports, fire, court, and finance for any back payments due. So that is my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Any questions for Ms. Fritzen?
I do,
Mr.
Mayor.
Desiderio? Yes.
Liz, are we good? Did the applicant, on the bid for the new license, is that application in pending? Are we just waiting for the results back from police, et cetera?
We're not even that far. I've been in touch with the applicant, and the applicant has retained a ABC attorney. I don't know who that is. I didn't ask. And I just made sure that they were on track to be completing their 12-page transfer application, which they never asked me for, but I'm sure they were able to get one. And the first step would be to return it to me so that we could start the process on the background checks, on the information that is required. So the gentleman, again, has retained an attorney to do, I think, a lot of the legwork for him. But the bottom line is we need to get it back so that we can proceed in the checks.
And we're good with state ABC, right?
Yes, we are. You saw that response, and that's good. And I've since been in touch with Mrs. Perna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Desiderio. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Any other questions for Ms. Fritzen? All right, hearing none, we will close that agenda item, which is number 19, administrative reports. Move on to report of elected officials, and we'll first hear from committee person, Ms. Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. I am very brief tonight because it's my birthday and I want you all to give me the present of being brief tonight on your reports. That's my gift. But I just wanted to mention that at the next meeting, the Woodland rates will be on for first reading. I was hoping to have them on tonight, but the timing didn't work based on my Recreation Advisory, Recreation and Human Services Committee timeline. So also, thank you, Mayor, for your comments at Memorial Day, and I apologize again for missing it. It was the first time I've seen my daughter in a while and was able to take a quick trip up to Rochester to spend some time with her. So I appreciate you letting me miss, but it was on my mind, and I want to thank all our veterans for their sacrifice. And lastly, as Ms. Fritzen mentioned, primary is June 8th. Jermaine Kripe and I are the Democratic Committee nominees for Township Committee. So we ask for everyone to get out to vote, and that's my report. I challenge all my Township Committee colleagues to be as brief.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. All right, who's next? Is it Mr. Lindbergh or is it Mr. DeLuca? Let's see.
I think it's me, Mayor. So I want to just echo a few things that Ms. Fritzen said. First, we did have a great Memorial Day ceremony yesterday. Great words from the mayor. Great words from Rabbi Weisberg. And it was nice to see people from the community come out and actually have a public gathering to honor those who served, who gave their lives for our country. So thank you to Ms. Fritzen and her office for putting together that. Thanks to Troop 5 for displaying the colors, and to Bruno Lee for playing the trumpet, and for all the others who came out yesterday to be a part of that celebration for Memorial Day. Also, as has been mentioned by Ms. Fritzen and Ms. Adams, Election Day is 1 week from today, so please come out and vote. It's what makes our democracy work, and sometimes what makes our democracy not work is when people either vote or don't vote. So be one of the people that makes our democracy work. Vote next Tuesday, and then also come out and vote in November. We'll certainly remind you again, but the reminders to vote are not nearly as frequent for these June primaries, especially in non-presidential years. So here's a reminder: vote next Tuesday. And this is a vote in person election. So a lot of you haven't gotten the vote by mail like you did last year. So please go out, go to your polling place next Tuesday. And if you don't know where that is, Ms. Fritzen and the folks in her office are available. Call up the clerk's office and they can help tell you where to go. Want to wish a very special happy birthday to our colleague, Ms. Adams. And also just tell you about 2 upcoming meetings that we have before our next Township Committee meeting. The Community Board on Police is meeting tomorrow night for our monthly meeting at 7:30 p.m. Any members of the public are welcome to join us. That meeting is on Zoom. The link for that is on the website. And then a week from tomorrow night, that is June 9th. Also at 7:30 p.m., Wednesday, June 9th, will be our monthly Public Safety Committee meeting. That will also be the last Public Safety Committee meeting for our soon-to-be retiring Fire Chief, Mike Weber. So members of the public are welcome to join us for that as well. As usual, we'll hear from our Fire Chief and our Police Chief. Mr. Mayor, that is my report. I'll turn it back over to you. I think Committeeman DeLuca is next.
Thank you, Mr. Limbrick. And Committeeman DeLuca, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 things. First, I just wanted to give you an update on the Jitney survey. So I'm just going to pick out a couple of answers. So we asked people if they used the Jitney before COVID. You can see about 71% said yes, 29 said no. We asked them if you're going to think about the rest of the year. So this has gone up to over 76% going to use the Jitney, 24% or not. So we have a little bump in the interest of using the Jitney. Most people are going to start in September. Most people are going to use it, 5 days a week, a little drop off there. Again, most, pretty spaced out along our times, and same thing in the evening, and also the routes. So this data will we'll be looking at this at the Engineering, Public Works and Planning Committee meeting on June 9th, and we'll have a recommendation at the June 15th Township Committee on a way to proceed. My second item is it's, and I don't want to, because I've been here the longest, I don't want to sound stuffy, but I just want to get some clarity on township committee meeting protocols. Because I hear we're starting to use first names to refer to each other and to staff people and all that. And, you know, we have had a pattern of behavior of calling somebody Ms. or Mr. I know that has been questioned. I just think we need some clarity because I don't know what we're doing. And I'd like to know if we're going to do it one way, then we should all follow it. So I guess I'm going to throw that to you, Mayor, to give us some guidance, not tonight, but if you could come back and maybe, you know, we do have, there's actually Mr. Desiderio can provide it to us all. We have a code of behavior for township committee members. We ought to look at that to see if we're following that.
No worries, Mr. DeLuca. I think one of the things that has been communicated by the public, at least to me and I know by others, about trying to say committee person instead of committee woman or committee man. So I know in my remarks at Memorial Day, I did exactly that. And I try to do it. It doesn't come naturally because I think we're so accustomed to saying committee man or committee woman. But we will move toward that person or persona, if you will, and we can have a follow-up conversation with that offline. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. All right, we'll now hear from Deputy Mayor Dean Daffis.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 items. I'll be very quick. You're welcome, Ms. Adams. Committee Member Adams, rather. I support the gender neutral language, if we can all follow that. I know it's hard, but with practice, it gets easier. Happy birthday. All the best to you. Continued health and wellness. And I'm just going to, my first item is to invite people to join us throughout the month of June, somapride.com. Very easy to find all the events that we have happening. And there's something for everyone. There's fun stuff, there's serious stuff. We have panels, we have readings, we have dances. It's all possible this month. And we're really excited to be together. We're gonna kick things off officially on Sunday with our equality march, and rally, as we do every year. We will meet at 10 a.m. at Rickleton Square, and we will march through the village over to Town Hall for a short rally. And then we will raise our flags, and then we will join our Youth Pride picnic over by the Hilton branch of the library at the gazebo, where we're going to join the youth with pizza and ice cream, which sounds fun. And it's supposed to be 91 degrees on Sunday. So I think that'll be really welcome to have some ice cream. Please join us also on Thursday night this week, if you can. We are one of the few, if not the only school district in the state of New Jersey that does a lavender graduation for Pride. A lavender graduation is an opportunity to affirm our LGBTQ graduates this year because of COVID, 2020 and 2021 graduates. And we have about 15 graduates who are courageously coming out to be visible and to be seen and to be celebrated. So let's celebrate them. This is open to all graduates. It's open to all families. And I'd love to see a lot of people on Thursday night, starting at 6:30 p.m. at the Columbia High School auditorium, followed by some cake in the adjoining courtyard after a very brief ceremony. And the second thing is, as others have said, please vote. Your vote is your voice, especially at the local level where it matters the most. Those of you who engage with us regularly, you know that this is where it's at. This is where everything in life, your daily life, is decided, is discussed. So please, it's really important for you to go out and exercise your vote next Tuesday. The polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. There's really no excuse, even though it's in person this time around, for you not to find some time to go exercise the most powerful, the greatest privilege that we have as Americans, which unfortunately we take for granted. And with that, I end my report. And again, I wish a very happy birthday and best wishes to our colleague, Committee Member Adams. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have only a few things. One, I just want to communicate that we will doing our Pride Month flag ceremony tomorrow at 7 p.m. In South Orange. So please join us out there. It'll be, I think, a wonderful event. We'll hear from some great speakers, and we'll be raising the pride flags, which is very important to our greater community. And I do want to touch on one thing that we are doing for the first time in the history of Maplewood, and that is that we're doing a Juneteenth week. And I want to talk about it now, and I'm going to talk more about it, 2 weeks from now when we're in the middle of it. But for the first time ever, we've collaborated with multiple organizations as well as with our colleagues in South Orange and put not just Juneteenth the one day and what it means, but just a whole week. And we're going to start on Sunday, June 13th, by having a market, open air market with mostly Black merchants. Then that's from noon to 2:30. And that will be at Yale Corner. So for those who've been to the market at Yale Corner, Yale and Springfield Avenue, please come out on that Sunday. That's the kickoff event. On Monday, June 14th at 4 p.m. in South Orange, we'll do a flag raising. The NAACP is providing us with an official Juneteenth flag. We will also raise it in Maplewood, but 11 of our 22 municipalities in Essex County are represented by the NAACP, and will be awarded a flag as we discussed the discussion item in the last meeting, and be raising that as well in Maplewood, but formally doing it with several speakers on Monday, June 14th. And then on Wednesday, June 16th, please join myself and Mayor Ross Baraka from Newark, Mayor Ted Green from East Orange, and Mayor Michelle Dallafort from Union. Well, Black mayors will speak about Juneteenth, the importance to our community and importance to in the history of it. It'll be moderated by South Orange trustee Summer Jones, and it'll be a very enlightening and open conversation, and really raise the awareness of Juneteenth and importance it is to our greater community. And then on Thursday, we're also going to have a Soma Action Racial Justice event, which is going to be a march and a conversation. More to come on that. We're excited about that event. And then Saturday, on Juneteenth itself, we're going to have a heck of a day. What a celebration. We're going to start with events, a family event at Jefferson School. Then we'll move on, have a huge event at the Durant-Hennon House from 11 a.m. ongoing. We'll have speakers, music, poetry. And then we will take a hiatus for just about an hour or two, and then we'll head over to South Orange, to Floods Hill, where we have live music, and we'll have dancing and activities, a beer garden, which will go from 5 to 9 p.m. And at the end of the night, we have a very special event that's going to occur at Floods Hill. So please come out and celebrate Juneteenth week in the Township of Maplewood and South Orange. We're very excited about this. So that concludes my report, and we'll now move on to agenda item number 21, which is basically one discussion item, which is on our tree ordinance, and I'll yield the floor to committee member, Mr. DeLuca.
So just to put a period on that, I wasn't saying gender neutral, I was saying first names. That's what I said. And I want to get clarity on that. Okay.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Definitely want to have that balance of gender, non-gender. So we'll add that into it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. So just to give you, these are the new changes that I sent out Sunday. Any tree which determined, and just take out is in healthy condition. It doesn't have to be, we could have a specimen tree that's unhealthy, but still meets the criteria. So I think there's agreement to do that. This just made this number 8 here, just clarified that there's 3 things to look at. 1, hardship, 1, endanger the public, or for some other, this is current language that's in there now. And this has to do with a series of steps that the DPW has to look at. So here gets into the issue of the specimen tree and the size. So what I had proposed was taking out specimen, which is now with historic, rare, or specimen, and just make a separate standalone clause for historic and rare. And essentially that unless the tree is in poor health and poses a significant danger, that these trees can't come down. Now, I know we got some comments that we've never had a historic or rare tree. I don't think it means that we shouldn't have a standalone sentence for this or clause for this. We may never use it, but at least it separates historic and rare from specimen. Specimen, I had proposed this new language here in red. So it just says if it's in poor health, if it's likely to cause a hardship or meet some other adequate reason. And that is the same as what we had up here. And then also say before issuing a permit, there should be determined whether the condition can be resolved by removal or pruning of portions of the tree. So just to put it real clear where we are right now. A specimen tree of 11 inches or less can be removed without a permit. A specimen tree 12 inches to 23 inches, you need to get a permit and then have it evaluated, or request a permit and have it evaluated against certain conditions and criteria. And the way it is now, a specimen tree 48 inches and above can only be removed if it has real or significant danger to persons or property.
I'm sorry, Mr. Luca, did you say 48 or 24?
24, I'm sorry. I may have said 48, but it's 24 and above.
Right.
So right now we have 3 categories. Under 1 foot, you can take it down. 1 foot to 2 feet, you got to go for the criteria. 2 feet and above, you can't take it down unless it's a danger.
Great. We have no hardship exemption.
Correct. For 2 feet and above.
Right.
So now we have an issue here where we have a couple of lots where we've made some planning board approvals, which have old growth trees. And some of them are more than 2 feet. And the question is, you know, what was proposed by Mr. Perfetta is that between 24 inches or 25 inches and 47 inches, that they fall under the real and significant danger category. And that 48 inches and above, they can't be torn down. That's what he's proposing. So, you know, mine was a little more flexible. And, you know, the other proposal that we heard was one that made 2 distinctions, having a little more flexibility on a 2 foot and a 3 foot tree, and having no flexibility or very little flexibility, only in case of a danger on anything 48 and above. Then we heard from both the architect and a resident who has a 48 and above tree and wants to have the enjoyment of their house and be able to expand the property there, or not the property, but the facility there, to be able to accommodate her parents. So that's where we are right now. We have to make a decision because we're stuck. Right now, the DPW is denying permits because the category we have says that anything 24 and above, unless there's a real or significant danger, they're going to deny the permits.
Yeah. And I had a conversation with Mr. Kittner, and I told him that based on our present ordinance, he had no alternative but to deny those 2.
That's correct. So if we do nothing, then those, you know, if we just pass the ordinance we agreed to at the last meeting, then that's what's going to happen. That means no tree 24 and above, even if it gave planning board approval, would be able to be taken down. And I think we're looking to have some kind of balance here.
They can appeal though, correct?
They can appeal.
A permit denial can be appealed. So
that's correct.
Well, it can be appealed, but the standard is the standard for the appeal would be the misapplication of the ordinance. If the ordinance doesn't allow it to come down, the appeal can't possibly be successful.
I think that there may be an interpretation that you could appeal the judgment that there's a real or significant property, a real significant damage.
Mr. Sorry, did I stop someone else?
No, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. DeLuca, I forget because we've talked about all the various proposal. Were you suggesting that in order to balance things out, especially in light of what we heard tonight during public comment, to add a hardship provision to trees that are 4 feet, or, these older trees?
What I had proposed was that on anything 24 inches and above, that yes, this B here is likely to cause a hardship.
Right.
And I think there's a valid point that Mr. Profeta makes in that, what does a hardship mean?
Yeah, and I agree with Mr. Profeta that there needs to be a definition of hardship.
Right. I think what he's proposing makes sense to say that, and I can, he talks about, sorry, I'm going back and forth with this sharing, but that he says, that a tree can be removed where the specimen tree stands in the way of development projects approved by the planning board or board of adjustment and are permitted by right of zoning, where it is clear that on the record, the boards have considered this ordinance before granting such approval. What this does is it makes it, and I would assume Mr. Desiderio agrees that this makes it a stronger statement.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the issue is, there are properties where you may not have to go to a board. So it says
Or permitted by right of zoning.
Yeah, I do not think, I agree with that. What I don't agree with is where it is clear on the record that the boards have considered this ordinance before granting such approval. I don't think it should be a board decision. I don't think throwing it to the board and making that part of their review process is appropriate. I think basically this is an ordinance of the township and that's the way it should be. But I'll draft it however you tell me to draft it.
Well, our ordinance already says, Mr. Desiderio, our ordinance already says that no building or demolition permit or any application to the planning board shall be issued or approved until it is determined that the applicant is in conformance with the provision of this article. So there is a review already that the board is supposed to ask, are you compliant with the tree ordinance?
Well, obviously that's not happening.
Correct. Well, I think what they do is they put it in the resolution that says to go forward, you must follow the tree ordinance.
So we're back to where we started.
Yeah, it's circular.
So let's talk about this hardship, right? We have a gentleman we heard from tonight who spent, $500,000 on buying lots. It was approved by the planning board. He's trying to build his sublot developments. And he's at a point now where he cannot do it because where we stand today.
Let me just clarify this because I spoke to Mr. Edelson about it.
Mm-hmm.
Approved by the planning board, I don't think is technically correct. This was a subdivision as of right. And I think that was just really a dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I don't think they did any type of deep analysis into this. It's not like they did a site review or anything else. It only went to the planning board because it was a subdivision by right. And there were no variances granted. So I don't think the planning board, in fairness to them, really did any analysis with regard to this. I wasn't at the planning board meetings, but I think that is correct.
Well, this is the second time that something like this came in front of the planning board because they heard the same case regarding a property on Harvard, where it had about 15 trees. And I do believe they're in the process of ripping them down to do a split development. So I guess the question I have is just using common sense, forget all the other information. How do we go about a process where, yes, we're pro-tree, but also use common sense? So in issues like this, a tree or two, specimen or not, is not interfering with a business decision or a property owner's ability to do what they want to do on their property which they own.
You want me to be the devil's advocate?
I just want to answer to the question because I feel like, we need to think about
the answer to that question is they should do their due diligence before they buy the property.
So you think that's fair to say that to the two?
I'm not suggesting it's fair or it's not. I'm simply saying that everybody has an obligation to do their due diligence.
Right, but I think, Mr. Desiderio, I think the problem is in our ordinance right now. We say that you can get a permit if there's a hardship. So if you're buying the property, you get approval subdivision, you could go back and say, hey, I have a hardship. I can't build the houses, or I can't build the project that I was. So I think we've got to do something here, because what we have now is maybe a little bit ambiguous.
And I am not arguing either way, but the mayor posed a question, and I just wanted to be responsive, because I think there is an argument on both sides of it. That's all.
And just to be clear, also, I agree with Mr. Desiderio that there is a responsibility before you buy something and want to put something there. You make sure that it's zoned appropriately and that you know what's coming before you and what you're going to have to do, or what you can and cannot do. And to be clear also on the planning board subdivision, especially with the gentleman who spoke earlier and from the public comment, that was approved for a subdivision by right, as Mr. Desiderio said, and not necessarily then it goes for building permits and adherence to all the ordinances for all the permits they would need going forward. So I think to Mr. Profeta's point, we need to, no offense to anybody coming before us and talking about their needs on any specific project, we need to look at this as we look at everything, which is taking into account what's best for the town and what, what people are required to do. I mean, the property on Curtis also had issues with regard to the riparian zone, and maybe the same due diligence should have gone with regard to this tree that would need to be removed. So there are, I don't think we can even consider, no offense to the residents, like what money they may or may not have put out in this. I think this is an ordinance. We need to think of it as what we wanted to say and what we need to do, as opposed to, oh, this person bought this and didn't find out that they needed that, so we can't set laws that way. So, regardless of how much we may feel for them. So
I think ignorance of the law is never a defense, right? That always applies. We deal with that in code enforcement all the time, right? People say, well, I didn't know that I couldn't do this, so I did it. But that being said, our duty as elected representatives is also to be thoughtful, practical, and balanced. Nothing is pure, even saving trees. Certainly, I believe that our intentions are very good here. After all, we are named after a tree. So I support this, and I voted to move it forward to this point where we are tonight. But even good intentions can have unintended, unwelcome, impractical consequences. I mean, if we don't provide for some reasonable, ascertainable manner of dealing with circumstances like the ones that we heard about tonight, then this is just not going to be enforceable. And our intentions will be destroyed as well, because the developer can say, well, damn you, I'll take the tree down and I'll pay you the $5,000 fine. And then you lose the tree. You lose the canopy. You lose exactly what we're trying to do. So we're not definitely encouraging people to do the right thing, which in this circumstance also, by the way, could include, I definitely feel for Miss Lou. I work in housing professionally right now, and I get it. Providing housing for her elderly parents is, what could be greater than that? But there's opportunities to look at our ADU ordinance that we have that's alive now, and maybe that would be appropriate there. But whatever it is, I just don't think that we can tell an owner within reason, obviously, that's why we have a planning board and we have all these other ordinances, not just the tree ordinance, that, you know what, too bad. You should have thought about that when you came here. We're going to make your life difficult. We don't want you to live here, or if you live here, we don't want you to do anything to your house. We're going to make it incredibly burdensome, expensive, and annoying. I can't, I'm not comfortable with that. Saving a tree or not saving a tree. At the end of the day, if this ordinance is not balanced, practical, and enforceable, it's not like having one at all. So I really think that we need to come up with something that allows us some degree of ascertainable review and certainty to address situations like the one that we're discussing tonight and move forward with our tree ordinance. And I think Mr. DeLuca's proposal initially is a good one. It is balanced. And yes, hardship isn't defined, but we will determine that and the merits of that in each particular case. We can't just say a hardship is always going to be, well, I want to tear down that tree because I don't like it there and it's going to be a hardship to my mental health. Real hardship. What we heard tonight is demonstrable real hardship beyond economic. We're denying someone housing for their elderly parents on property they own.
Oh, I'm not denying them. That's for the record.
No, I'm saying we're considering doing that.
Right. I'm not considering that at all, just for the record. Yep.
Sure. And I did not impose on anyone here that we were going to do that, right? I'm just speaking. And thank you for the clarification, Mayor. So, that's where I stand on this. I really think that ultimately our goal is a good goal. But in order to get there, we have to have something that works for everyone, that's practical to the best of our abilities.
Well, and I think to your point, the practical part that you mentioned before is utilizing our ADU ordinance that we just passed, as opposed to, I think in that particular case, there is an alternative that is not denying housing for parents. I'm just saying. So I don't think we need to go that extreme. I think the question on the table needs to be, what is a hardship and do we need to further define it? Because if it's just laid to the feet of the Director of Public Works, who, by the way, is not an arborist and not necessarily qualified to make that decision, we just simplified that term as the director being the one to make the decision because of our change in organization table and having since the arborist reports to the director. But I think given this kind of discussion, I think it lays a little too much on the powers to someone who's not necessarily qualified to make a decision as a professional in trees. So we need
is qualified, right?
Supposedly, but that's not what I'm saying. That's not what our ordinance says, Mr. Daffis. It says that the director or their designee, and so you know what I'm saying. So ultimately, the director could just decide, regardless, just based on his or her own interpretation. So I think if we're not going to further define hazards, then we need to maybe look at the terminology we used as to the expertise of the person in the township making that decision. So I didn't mean to throw a whole nother pebble in there, but.
Does Administrator Jimes have any opinion here?
I mean, I agree with the proposals. I think the challenge here is, someone's got the tree on the middle of their property that they own. They want to build a house for their parents. I mean, I'd be inclined to agree with that as a matter of a hardship. I think the challenge is it's not any of us holding it up, it's the existing ordinance holding it up. I think that's the clarification that should be made. And I do agree, with an ordinance change that would resolve that, as Mr. DeLuca mentions. I don't know if hardship is the right way to call it, because I think that's a hard thing to define. Although I think it would be a hardship here. I think you could do something, we kind of talked this through, say if there is an existing plan or an approved site plan approval, that would kind of resolve the issue as well. So I think as a matter of policy, it's up to the governing body, but I do agree with the sentiments being proposed.
Can I share the language again? So what I did is, here's the E. So specimen tree. So A, if it's in poor health and disease and presents a significant danger, no matter what size it is, we can issue a permit to take it down. I think the question is likely to cause a hardship. We could take this out, strike that out. And then just say where the specimen tree stands in the way of development projects approved by the planning board or board of adjustment or are permitted by right of zoning, period. And then I would take out this other adequate reason.
So my question with regard to that would be what was approved by the planning board? A subdivision being approved by the planning board, and Mr. Desiderio can correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't necessarily mean they can put a house there.
No, but if it's a subdivision, I would assume that they are giving a right of zoning. Is that correct, Mr. Desiderio?
Well, I think what Mr. Profeta means is permitted by right of zoning. The lot on Curtis is zoned for a one-family house. So if I understand him correctly, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's what the third alternative is.
They'd have to go for a variance.
Why would they have to go for a variance?
You're saying it's a one-family house, one-family zone.
Well, that's what they're building.
They're building, yeah.
Oh, it's a separate lot?
It's a separate lot. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. No, it's a separate lot, which actually magnifies the situation.
Right. No, I agree. So, but I think this is the balance where you say, you know, you honor the planning board, board of adjustment, or the zoning.
Right.
You get rid of the hardship because hardship is too hard to define.
Right. But all right. So I see what you're saying.
So you only have two issues.
Right. Hardship. I don't like terms like hardship. I like objective standards.
I struck it out. I
understand. You did that. Yes, I think that's the best. But he's also saying something else. I think or maybe you were, and I apologize. You want to raise this from 24 to.
Well, he was suggesting that. I don't know if we have agreement on that.
Okay, but if it's over 24, do any of those three reasons still apply?
Yes.
Regardless of what size it is.
Yes, because the specimen tree for deciduous tree is 24 inches. So yes.
So you have to get a permit, but there's no absolute prohibition of taking any tree down under those circumstances.
Let me just correct you on one thing. From 12 inches to 23 inches, you have to get a permit. Right now, 24 and above, you cannot take it down.
Except if in this circumstance.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
So any tree from 12 inches to 23 inches, you have to go get a permit. Once it gets to 24, it has to meet this criteria.
You still have to get a permit.
You still have to get a permit, but it's either it has to be in poor health or where the tree stands in the way of development projects approved by the planning board or board of adjustment or are permitted by right of zoning.
So to that point, does Mr. Kroll's project, does that align with this? Yes or no?
I believe it does.
Yes.
That's my answer. Okay. And then also the resident on Curtis, does it align with this?
Yes.
Then I'm good with it.
No, actually it doesn't.
Then I'm not. If it doesn't work for the residents, it doesn't work for me.
Well, wait a minute. Why?
Talking about one resident versus, thousands of others. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about whether or not, we don't know when that subdivision was approved.
Yeah, but Ms. Adams, which one are you saying it doesn't apply to?
Curtis.
It does. It clearly applies to Curtis. Curtis is a one family lot. residential one-family lot.
Right, but it says where the planning board, all right, so we're not gonna include the part where the planning board actually knows about the ordinance there.
They don't have to go to.
They don't have to.
They don't have to go to the planning board.
Oh, well, the subdivision presumably went before the planning board, no?
This was not a subdivision. It was two separately taxed lots.
Oh, I thought it was a subdivision.
No, I think Mr. Kroll's was a subdivision, not the
Oh,
Curtis.
that one I know, but I thought the subdivision happened at Curtis before
Well,
because,
No, it's,
Yeah.
I mean, you're on the board. I don't believe it. I don't believe it did. I believe
no, but I mean, I think it happened a long time ago is what I'm saying. It was sub-
I have some personal knowledge because my daughter and son-in-law were interested in that lot. And it's been
Right.
it's been a separate zoned lot for a long time.
And the ordinance already says that the Board of Adjustment and Planning Board has to take into consideration this ordinance.
Okay, so at this point, knowing that this ordinance does address Mr. Kroll's issue and 17 Curtis, I'm okay with moving forward with it. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to leave this sentence in here is that the director has to, just determines whether the condition can be done by pruning. And that was actually done. Mr. Kroll gave us the example of him going to meet with the director on site and talking about other options and things like that. So,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
yeah. So if we cut out B is we cut out is likely to cause a hardship and, or meet some other adequate reason, and we just leave is in poor health or disease and presents a danger, or where the specimen tree stands in the way of redevelopment or development projects approved by the Planning Board, Board of Adjustment, or are permitted by right of zoning. Are we good with that?
I'm good with that.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. And all these other changes, these little changes here and there.
Yeah.
All right.
Or are we not going to address the 24 to 47 inch part?
I don't think that was, I don't think there's interest in doing that. I didn't hear it.
Barely brought up, so.
Well, you have a right to bring it up.
Yeah, I just did, so.
Okay, are we ready to, what are the instructions? Put this on for next meeting?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. That's only one discussion item, but it was robust in itself. We'll now move on to agenda item number 22. It's a consent agenda. I'm looking for a motion from items 1 through 6 and 8 through 20.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I actually think it's items 2 through 6 and 8 through 20 on the consent agenda. So that would be, just for clarification, resolutions 15621 through 16021 and resolutions 16221 through 17521, and also approval of the closed session minutes of May 18, 2021, and you can consider that a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Awesome. All right, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Danfus?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We're now at our agenda item number 23, public comment on any subject matter, limited to 3 minutes. We'll now open up for the public to speak. Mr. Waltz, you have the floor.
Okay, Mayor, if you guys would like to address the Township Committee, please use the raise your hand function. Mr. Michalowski will move you over to a panelist and we will allow you 3 minutes to speak. First up, we have David Humer. You have 3 minutes.
No.
Why is poor Boomer? It always happens to him.
We hear you, Alvin. Can we go to somebody else because we got a problem here?
Yeah, let's keep moving. Nick, who we have next?
maybe.
Okay, Mayor, next up we have Claire Roberts. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a Maplewood resident. I live at 78 Woodside Road, and I wanted to ask, I wanted to draw your attention to a discussion on Summer Lounge that began with Andrew Hall on May 23rd. For those of you who are not aware of it, he reported that a rabbit had been killed in his backyard with a blowgun dart. On this same thread on Summer Lounge, Bill Donovan, who lives a few doors down from Andrew Hall, who is, the location is Walton Road near Kendall Avenue. Bill Donovan this evening also reported that a rabbit had come into his backyard with a dart sticking in it. At that time, he said it was still alive. I don't know whether or not the rabbit has died since then. The reason why I'm bringing this up is for several reasons. One is to ask, is hunting small animals with blowguns, is that legal in Maplewood? My second question is, if it is not legal, would the township consider passing an ordinance to ban this practice? Because it's clearly dangerous. I'm not speaking about just the cruelty to animals here, although that's very much a part of this. But to have someone running around the backyards of Maplewood shooting darts from a blowgun seems like it's very dangerous, and it seems like there could be a serious accident within a matter of time. So that is my question for you.
Well, we appreciate your comments, Ms. Roberts. What we can do is we can take, can you mute Mr. Humer, please? Thank you. What we can do is we can take this under consideration. Obviously, we can't use social media. It's, we don't govern by social media, so we understand that that's where you saw it. But we can, if you want to take screenshots and provide to us, and we can have a conversation about that and move forward. But obviously,
Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, Roger, because it's
refer to the police chief. If we can refer it to the police chief.
100%.
If it's banned, it's banned. If I had to guess, I would say yes, but I think we should let him investigate it.
Agreed. And that's the point. So, Ms. Roberts, you could send us an email with screenshots. We can get it to our police chief and he can assess it. We just can't.
Yeah, I will do that. I think there was a question. Someone on the thread said that blowguns are actually legal in New Jersey.
Yeah,
Well,
we can't.
If they're illegal in New Jersey, then we're preempted and we can't pass anything to prohibit it.
Correct. Yeah, we need to. If you send us the email, then we'll take a look at it. We'll get it to the police chief, and then we'll see what the ordinances speak to. And we appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Quick clarification, Mayor, our ordinance does reference as a pretty wide definition of firearms as it relates to discharge. And we are allowed to have a discharge ordinance. And I think based on that comment, that would probably fall under the definition of firearms in our chapter 126.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. Excellent intel. So Ms. Roberts, she left, but if she can send information, we get it to the chief in the line and he can do his proper investigation. Thank you. Who's next?
Okay, Mayor,
Yeah.
Next we have John James. You have 3 minutes.
Mr. James.
I just wanted to follow up on my earlier comments and thank the Township Committee for your deliberations regarding the tree ordinance. I feel that allowing proper zoning and trees to be removed from the building footprint of houses is a hallmark of most of the townships in New Jersey. It's been my whole experience that this was an aberration of any tree ordinance I've ever seen. And I really appreciate you considering that and honoring people that want to be able to build a house still in Maplewood. There are very few lots left, but they should be able to build a house without that encumbrance. All of us want to have trees, but that really is the proper, I think, adjudication of zoning. So I appreciate that very much and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. James. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee, Nick?
Yes, Mayor. Next, we have Lawrence Hecht. 3 minutes.
Hello. So I'm a soccer guy. So basically about the turf fields, I'm not going to repeat everything you've heard before, except for that I've been involved with the Maplewood Cougar Soccer Club for the last 8 years. You guys know the problems with the fields. Just wanted to let you know that, so I'm the coach for one of the teams. I've had one player leave my team mid-season to join the Union Soccer Club because they have turf fields. I had 2 kids decide not to come back next year because to go to Florham Park because they have a dome turf field. My son decided not to join the team. He gets to be with those other kids. It's a significant, real issue. And this is an issue for of equity, because we're talking about kids that actually could afford to go to those other teams. It's going to cost about at least $2,000 more to go to these other soccer programs than to go with the programs that we're doing right now. So basically, if you're a lower income, even middle income family, you can't afford to go to these other soccer programs that are aimed towards the middle, upper middle class kids. And that's a real issue that you guys should really think about. So, for example, at the Heart, after we play, the grown-ups start playing at night on the weekends. They speak Creole. They're Haitian. It's focused to one of the biggest sports in Haiti is soccer. We're not helping those kids out at all. If we're looking towards local community support, we're not helping those Haitians who live near Irvington in that area. I have a question and comment for the town council. I'm interested in getting turf fields. I'm worried that it's getting turf on DeHart. It's not going to happen anytime soon. I'm worried that the Board of Ed's not going to be able to allocate money.
30 seconds.
Okay. How can we get people from Essex County? How could you use your political power to get help from Essex County and the neighboring towns get access to fields quickly? And how can you get access to the fields that's what I want. I want access to fields quickly in neighboring towns. I want political pressure to be brought to bear, because I don't think that's
your time.
Keep money for our own.
Thank you, Mr. Heck. I think I got your question. Obviously, we are continuing the process to see what the next steps are, with the end goal to, per whatever the study says, to do turfing in Maplewood, and DeHart is a primary location. We also heard about some opportunities in Maple Crest as well. And, we've had conversations with other mayors and other municipalities and at the county level too, to try to get time allocated for their existing turf fields. And frankly, it's very difficult because they're being leveraged by their rec and their sports programs as well. I'm happy to have those conversations with the county exec and see if we can find some bridge loan, if you will, between where hopefully we'll be able to get to a point where we have our own turf fields. But it is very daunting. There's a lot of activity, youth sports, rec club, recreational across the board. And, it's hard being one of only 2 out of 22 towns without turf fields. And hopefully we'll get there. But thank you for your comments. Who's next, Nick?
Okay, Mayor, next up we have Stefan Colodi. 3 minutes.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I too wanted to kind of touch on the turf subject. I have 2 young boys. They're 7 and 10. They've both been involved with the Cougar Soccer Club. I also am a volunteer parent coach and also a resident of the Hilton neighborhood. So, DeHart is my local park. it's a great facility, but the grass is just really, really bad. It just rains a little bit. The fields are closed. The kids are missing out on practice time. Throughout the course of the year, we probably, have missed, 15 to 20 practices throughout the course of the year. That impacts the players, their player development. Cougar Soccer Club is on that field like 6 days a week. They use it after school, on the weekends. In November, it was just a slop of mud. It was unplayable. But we were out there. We were still playing because we had to, because that's where we practice. And so I think it's really, really important to address this issue. Just for player development, for the opportunity to play. This past weekend, tournaments happened in other towns because they had turf fields. The Cougar, Memorial Tournament, which happens every year, it has happened every year for 39 years. It didn't happen because we just don't have the facilities to make it happen. And so I think it's really important, practice on their night. It hasn't rained in about 48 hours, but when you were walking on the field, it was still squishy. The drainage there is really poor. I know there's some residents that are concerned about losing, the grass in the area, but I think that having a turf field would be very, very beneficial. And I think you should seriously consider it.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments very much.
Okay, Mayor, Mr. Humer has rejoined us on the telephone. So, Mr. Humer, you have 3 minutes.
He's muted. Nick, can you tell him how to
I'm good.
unmute?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. Thank you all for your service. David Humer, 26 Nelson Place. There's an overriding issue when you talk about turf or any other recreational use, which is that we don't have enough land for field space. We have not added land for field space since Title IX. Think about that. We have 55 acres roughly of town-owned recreational land. The minimum national requirement for a national standard is that we should have 6 acres for 1,000 people. The maximum is 10. That would suggest 150 to 250 acres. So we have 1/3 to 1/5 of what we need. The residents of this town have voted to raise their taxes twice for an open space trust fund. There are hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. I think this year's number recommended is $387,000. The number one purpose of the Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Committee is the acquisition of lands for recreation and conservation purposes. There is land adjacent to our parks, land without buildings. Maplewood should buy that land, as much of it as possible. This has been kicked down the road for decades. You have the ability to do something about it. Please do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Humer.
Okay, Mayor, next up, Irving Sham. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Irving, 414 Boyden Avenue. I just want to say you guys are doing an excellent job. Definitely really good on Juneteenth, the first Township Juneteenth celebration. But I couldn't help but chime in when we were talking about like soccer. I'm from Haitian parents, Haitian descendants. And I definitely, like, I remember when I was younger playing in the street, in the backyard on Jacoby at the gas station. And if we can add like value, especially to our soccer clubs, our lacrosse clubs, and whatever other sports teams that could use a field, I think that we should do it. Definitely the turf field would make a lot of sense, specifically because of less maintenance. And it's safer. My kid plays on the New Jersey Premier team. I would love him to play for our local township and for rec clubs in the area. But I'll tell you, when it comes down to a dirt field, we're a little bit hesitant because we know what can happen, especially when it's not balanced or leveled out or well taken care of. So I'm definitely, I'll just tell you guys, being from that side of town, we like the turf is definitely important, and I would love to see that done. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Champ.
Okay, Mayor, next we have Sergio Garcia. 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you for having me. Sergio Garcia, 11 New England Road. I'm too a soccer dad. I'm sorry to keep pounding on this. It's a little bit of an embarrassment. Honestly, we've throughout this year, we went to many different fields throughout Essex. And we were the ones that, one, did not have facilities open, bathrooms when we hosted games. We canceled a bunch of games because of the field was not appropriate. And I honestly think you have an opportunity right now with the whole redevelopment that you're doing on that side of town. I mean, a turf field would not be something significant to ask of the developers. Especially if they're going to get, I don't know, if a tax incentive or anything, that could be an opportunity to tie that in to the whole development. Just an idea, but it is a little bit of an embarrassment that as such a nice town that we are always the ones that have to cancel, postpone games because our fields are not up to par. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, next up we have Joan Crystal. 3 minutes.
Thank you. David Humer made the point that I really wanted to make. Turf is not going to solve the problem because we will have overuse with turf or with grass fields. We really need to think about how to manage the fields we have in terms of restricting play to what the fields can handle. And that's going to be a real problem because we have so many sports teams now that we didn't have 40 years ago that are all demanding the same limited resource. But I really think that you need to give some thought to how we manage our existing fields as being the primary problem that really needs to be solved. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crystal, and great seeing you on Monday afternoon as well. Nick, who else?
I see no one else, Mayor.
All right, hearing or seeing, there's one.
I see one more.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, they just popped up. Sorry about that. Glenn, you going to transfer them over?
Yep.
Okay, next up we have Nick Pye. 3 minutes. You're muted, sir.
Sorry, I'd like to speak about the turf as well. I echo what these other parents are saying. This is an issue that is the exact same as it was last year and the previous year and the 5 years and the 10 years before that. The only daunting part about it is that you guys aren't doing anything about it. We have a field that we could turf. We could use that field when it rains. Our fields are not just unsightly and sad to look at and embarrassing, they're actually dangerous. There's many, many parts of our fields where you will see cones, you will see holes, you will see ruts. It's not just that they're not level, they are not safe to play. We've had other teams visit us and not play on our fields. It's worse than an embarrassment. It is a danger to our children, and we are letting it go on annually without fail. It's the same problem year over year. And we're also paying to improve the fields and seeing nothing from it, which is also very galling. The primary reason that all the fields are bad is because we have to play them on mud, as one of the earlier commenters said. A little bit of rain, we play on it, the fields are destroyed, they never improve. And that could be avoided if in rain situations we had a field that was safe to play and we could rest the other fields. Instead, our fields get worse every year. Nothing is done about it. It's at some point, this is going to stop being a complaining issue and a safety issue. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Pai.
Okay, Mayor, next up we have Brian Callahan, 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Township Committee members, Brian Callahan, 676 Prospect Street in Maplewood. I know I've spoken before on this topic and I feel compelled to speak again. What obviously also needs to be considered in this town is the change of our demographics, the amount of youth, the amount of young families moving into our town, the amount of young people being out there, the amount of young people wanting to participate, the amount of older people wanting to participate. We've got senior softball, we've got senior ultimate frisbee, we've got senior soccer, all across the board. Our demographics have changed dramatically. Our demographics continue to change with influx of young people. If we continue to limit or put limits on our fields, all that's going to mean is that our kids cannot play on our fields. Teams, no matter what team it is, no matter what organization it is, will have to limit the amount of people that can play. We'll have to limit the amount of days they can play. If we don't have an option for them to go and use on a regular basis, which could be a transition of D Hart Park to turf field, then we'll never have the opportunity for the kids to grow and learn in our program and in our local programs, no matter who runs them, what have you. DeHart is the ideal location. It's a current footprint that's no trees, no impediments in the way. You can definitely move in there and make it right. To use other parks, to use other locations are very challenging. It is our only lighted location in our town. People will argue and say, well, we have Chisowitz. Chisowitz is not, it's in Maplewood, yes, but it is not owned by the town. It is owned and operated by South Orange, so Chisowitz becomes not an option. All of our other locations would have to be lighted, which is multi-hundreds of thousands of dollars to put lighting in. We have a footprint that is usable, that is appropriate, and we just put in brand new basketball courts. We just put in a brand new tennis court. We just put in a brand new playground. There's exercise equipment and a walking path all around there. This is the ideal location to make it happen. I've heard earlier this evening people talking about our town being, talking about applauding our town for being the first and leading the way in things. We need to add this to the list and lead the way and make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan.
Okay, Mayor, next up we have Mike Klasowski, 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. I first want to thank the town committee for all the work you've done, especially this evening. It was a pleasure to sit on this call and listen to all the action items that you have implemented, and particularly the way that you handled the resolution with some of the tree issues. I thought that was very forward thinking. We've talked about the turf fields. I just want to reiterate some points that were brought up. I would love nothing more in this town for us to be able to utilize all of our grass fields. If we want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars redoing all of them, properly pitching them, putting lights in all of those fields, I would be more than happy to have that as our long-term solution. But we know that that's not what we can do in this town. We don't have the funds to do that. A multi-purpose field is a solution that will give us the ability to rest a lot of our other grass fields in certain areas of the season. The multi-purpose field gives us the ability to allow our youth, as well as is brought up, our other members outside the youth community to utilize the fields. It builds self-esteem. It's all about sportsmanship. It's about the community. We have lots of residents that have lived here for years that have spoken up, and we have lots of residents that have moved into town and they're asking themselves the same question. I pay a lot of money in taxes. Show me what I can get for it. Because right now, all of our towns surrounding us, and again, I'll reference towns around us like Irvington, like Ivy Hill, like West Orange. They all have turf fields. Again, paying less in taxes than we are, but they are providing services to their youth community. I think we have to look at the options. We don't have many options in town space-wise. D-Hart is perfectly set up. It's already been designed to be turfed. It was ready to be turfed in 2008, and we have the ability to do it again. You've created a great facility there. There's brand new basketball courts. We took down a roller rink. We put in basketball courts. I didn't hear any uproar from the community there. There's no green effect in those new developments. It's actually anti-green, but yet we did that because it's very welcoming to the community in that area. Maple Crest is 3 blocks away from D-Hart. There's plenty of green space there. I'm not in any way advocating putting in turf in Maple Crest. Keep it as is. If you want a secondary option, Memorial Park, directly across from Town Hall, would be a phenomenal place for turf field. You'd have to level it off. You'd have to put in lighting, and you could put it next to your current tennis courts, the current basketball courts, and the softball field that's there. That would be phenomenal. But again, that would be a location that would be very challenging for us to do. I think we have to look long and hard at what the right solution is. We have a facility, we have a space. We need to make the decision now to move forward. You have commitment from numerous town athletic programs that are willing to support this. Now is the time. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Lowski. Appreciate your time.
Okay,
Well-
Mayor, I believe that's all I have at this time.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Nick. We will now close our second and final public comment session on all agenda items only. And we will move to adjourn. May I get a motion, please?
I move we adjourn.
Second.